community are provided with necessary support services, and public and private employers are aware of the capabilities of people with disabilities to be engaged in competitive work in inclusive settings, and whereas the goals of the city include providing individuals with disabilities the opportunities and support to make informed choices and decisions, live in homes and communities where they can exercise their full rights and responsibilities as citizens, pursue meaningful and productive lives, contribute to their family, community, state, and nation, have interdependent friendships and relationships with others, and achieve full inclusion in society. And whereas thousands in Wyoming face challenges with disabilities daily, and whereas the month of March has been designated as Disabilities Awareness Month to celebrate and recognize disabled individuals and promote awareness, now therefore be it resolved that our mayor does hereby proclaim March 2016 Disabilities Awareness Month in this city, and encourage all citizens, businesses, public and private agencies, religious and educational institutions to join in observing the months in honor of persons with disabilities. And this is dated March 1st, 2016. I hear there are two persons to come forward to accept Mike Muller and Nick Wiseman. Mike Muller and if they would like to say something, are they allowed?
Yes, please.
Very good, Klaus.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
If you gentlemen would like to,
Here, if you stand together, I'll take a picture.
You want me to come up too?
Yes, will you come?
All right.
Just jump over, Klaus.
Ah, yes.
So that spray you.
Thanks, Robin.
This is a ceremony and a half.
well, thank you very much for coming tonight, and thank you for accepting the presentation, or proclamation, I should say. All right, our next item is I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Good evening, council. What a great honor it is to make this presentation. We, in just a few weeks, will find that our meetings are different, and we're going to be missing a face that has been integral to not only city council meetings, but to the city of Laramie, to municipal government, and to our community for 35 years. And that is Mr. Paul Harrison, our Parks and Recreation Director. So I get a few minutes here to say nice things about Paul, which is a very easy task. I would ask you all to think about 35 years ago and what Laramie was like then, and just kind of ruminate a bit on what our community might look like had we not had the energy and the talents and the dedication of Paul Harrison. Laramie Greenbelt didn't exist, nor the trailheads that come along with it, and the open space that we preserved along the Laramie River. The Laramie River Restoration Project that the city completed in partnership with the Laramie Rivers Conservation District had not been completed. We're all mindful of the habitat that was improved and created for aquatic species, fish, and whatnot along the river. We're just starting to see maybe the fruits of that labor to restore the meander in our river, which is such a beautiful amenity in our community, and to have the greenbelt that allows us to enjoy it. Paul did that. Paul built that. The ice arena didn't exist. Many of the amenities in our parks didn't exist. Some of our parks didn't even exist back 35 years ago. Certainly the public art installations that were initiated about 10 to 15 years ago in the parks and along city properties didn't exist. Paul was integral to and made those things happen. Our relationship with mosquito control with the county Weed and Pest District is something Paul has fostered for many, many years. Certainly improves our quality of life to not be eaten alive each summer. The partnerships that Paul has created and fostered over the years are so vast, I couldn't even name them all. I tried to write them down, and I'm sure I've just barely scratched the surface. The Albany County Recreation Board is, Paul's a regular visitor there. Obviously, the city's Park Stream Recreation Advisory Board, the Beautification Committee of the Laramie Economic Development Council, and now the Laramie Chamber Business Alliance are eager to host Paul. The Ad Hoc Master Plan Committee that was assigned for a year to create a recreation master plan that took 3 years knows Paul well. He's been liaison to the rifle range, to the depot board, Laramie Main Street, Barnstormers, tennis, swimming, if there's a sport and you can think of it and they have an organization, Paul's been integral to helping them achieve their objectives. The SAC program and all the parents who have taken advantage of that over the years. Some now defunct organizations, the Wyoming Children's Museum and Nature Center, that the city leased space at the Forrest Sanders Building for years to that organization. They're now gone, but Paul was the liaison for that group. Working with the Beautification Committee, Parks and Recreation has fostered a whole bunch of beautification projects in Laramie. You think of South Third and what it looked like even 15 years ago and what it looks like now, much improved. Obviously, we can always improve South Third. I don't know if we'll ever be done on South and North Third, but it looks a lot better than it did before we had Paul in our community. Also, West Laramie Highway 230 improvements on out to the airport, beautification project. The downtown streetscape that the voters authorized in 2001, Paul oversaw that project, as well as the improvements to the lighting system downtown so we could ensure that that lighting system was safe and not something that could injure our public who are enjoying our beautiful downtown. The other thing I would note is Paul has often managed volunteers, which is never an easy thing to do. They can be challenging volunteers, but recently the Curmudgeons, which is a group of gentlemen who volunteer at the rec center and do projects, they, at Paul's retirement party last week, made him an honorary Curmudgeons. I believe Paul's first job with the city was as the cemetery sexton. And I remember, and he lived in the house in the cemetery early on in his career here. And I remember asking him one time if it was really hard to get a date when you live in the cemetery. He didn't answer, but I think fortunate for all of us is that it must not have been too hard to get a date because Paul met and married his wife Sherry, and she's here with us tonight. So as much as I want to recognize Paul and his contribution to our community and just note how different Laramie looks with Paul's involvement, I also want to acknowledge that the family support is really important, and Sherry has easily given as much to Laramie through support of her husband and the innumerable hours away and the innumerable evening meetings that department heads attend on a regular basis. So we want to acknowledge Paul's wife Sherry as well. We have some flowers for her, and Paul, we have a very nice plaque for you as well.
Honorable Mayor and Council, thank you for your recognition, and it's with sincere gratitude that I appreciate everything that this council and previous councils have done for me and my wife and my family over these 35 years. I did start in the cemetery. I was actually the parks superintendent, but was Parks and Cemetery. And I did have to live there. It was a little difficult as a young man, but I did find a pretty good date. And certainly, she stuck with me over these 35 years. But I really want to acknowledge this council and all the previous councils I've worked with, and primarily the citizens of Laramie, that when I first came here in my career path, I expected to be here 5 years. And here we are 35 years later, and it has been the most rewarding and fruitful career that I could have imagined. I've done things that I never imagined I would do. And being able to follow your passions and do things for a community in Parks and Recreation is just been an awesome experience that I never anticipated or imagined when I started that long ago. Working for city managers, Janine Jordan and Dave Darragon are a great team. I've worked for a number of them. They are awesome administrators, and you're very lucky to have them. The 280 dedicated employees of the city of Laramie, and over the years, those staff members and those colleagues are the most professional staff I've ever had the honor to work with. And the 26 full-time employees of Parks and Recreation that I've had the honor to work with and be a part of, along with the 150 part-time employees. I still get part-time employees or now adults come up to me and say, do you remember me, that they worked for Parks and Recreation 20 years ago? And no. Anyway, I just want to say, and I firmly believe that this community and this council and the citizens and the employees have provided me more gratification and rewards than I can ever repay, and much more than I've received in return. So thank you and happy trails, and I will see you again sometime.
I think at this time,
You don't have to hook that, Paul.
would you like to get a picture with the whole council?
Yeah.
Could I ask the council to come down in front of the dais?
I will make the picture. It's not bad. It's probably more expensive than a car.
Always. Thank you, Dave. Jane.
Good job.
Brian.
Maybe now I can beat him in fantasy football.
No.
You'll be in front. Try to get as close as you can.
Thank you. My pleasure. It was very rewarding. Nice time.
Perfect time. Well, mine not on it, so I was got myself as pass. Walk in the middle of the road.
Okay.
I just photobombed them. It's fine.
Okay, moving on. City manager, do we have any announcements?
Mayor, we do have two announcements from Parks and Recreation.
All right, Mayor and Council, back to business. I did hand out the letter from Jackie Gonzalez, and it's a staff's recommendation to go ahead and leave that on the agenda in case the county does need an alternate location for the polling for 2016. Also, in your packet, you were handed out a memo from Keith Wardlaw, the mosquito supervisor, on the Zika virus. He is here if you have any questions, but we will post this on the website as well. It gives you good background information from Keith. Just came back from a conference, a regional conference on mosquito control and the CDC, Centers for Disease Control. I also would note that the youth basketball tournament is coming up April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. We are still taking registrations. It's our 26th annual youth basketball tournament around all the gyms in Laramie. We are excited to have young men and women from all over the region, and we're hoping to have 80 to 90 teams and have a really good time on that first weekend in April. So registration is still open if you have any children or grandchildren who love youth basketball. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. This is for a proposed application to the Wyoming Business Council for a business-ready community grant and loan to fund the construction of a headquarters for Bright Agrotech. City Clerk, would you please read the notice?
Notice of a public hearing, 2016 Business Ready Community Grant and Loan Program applications for a business-committed project to support the construction of a headquarters for Bright Agrotech in Laramie. The Wyoming Business Council is seeking grant and loan applications from counties, incorporated cities, towns, joint power boards, and tribes for the 2016 Business Ready Community Grant and Loan Program. The intent of this program is to ready a community for a business development through economic or educational development projects, which may include but are not limited to water, sewer, streets, and roads, telecommunications, airports, purchase of rights-of-way, purchase of land, buildings, facilities, industrial and business parks, industrial site or business district development, amenities within a business or industrial park, landscaping, recreational and convention facilities, and other physical projects. The rules governing the BRC grant and loan program are available on the Wyoming Business Council's website. The City of Laramie proposes to submit applications for both a BRC Business Committed Grant and Loan to support the construction of a headquarters for Bright Agrotech in the Laramie Rivers Business Park and is seeking citizen input regarding this project. The City of Laramie will hold a public hearing on March 1st at 6:30 p.m. The hearing will take place in the council chambers of City Hall, 406 Ivinson Avenue. Citizens can also submit written comments to the City of Laramie.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience tonight that wishes to address council on this subject during this public hearing? Yes, Mr. Furphy.
Honorable Mayor, Council, Dan Furphy with the Laramie Chamber Business Alliance. I just want to say how excited I am about this company and what it's been able to accomplish already in our community and the huge potential that it offers. This is a company that is ag tech is what I call it, because it uses not only or develops products that create food sources, but also does research and software development, etc. The CEO, Nate Story, has developed this company very rapidly. He's now hiring a lot of graduates coming out of the University of Wyoming, and he now has not only domestic but international sales. And the company, as I said, has huge potential. So Nate's Story is here. So if acceptable to you, Mayor, I'll call him up and have him discuss the company.
That'd be fine. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members. I'm Nate Story. I'm the CEO of Bright Agrotech. And we, of course, are working with the LCBA and the City of Laramie to apply for this Business Ready grant. So we are an ag tech company. We develop hardware, software, and provide services for small growers. Our goal is to enable people to start businesses, specifically people that want to get into farming. This is something that hasn't been particularly accessible to people for a very long time. And so we're leveraging technology, we're leveraging some of the unique things that we do to kind of provide this full stack package of hardware, software, and services to growers. Most of our markets are here in the US, but we do sell internationally. We're growing very quickly overseas. And we've been in Laramie for some time, since we founded. We came out of the university. We were housed at the WTBC for some time. We won the 10K way back in the day, so we worked with College of Business. Our technology is licensed through UW. It's one of the research products from my research when I was at the university. And now we hire almost exclusively Wyoming graduates. And the goal of this is for us to be able to stay in Laramie. We really, really want to stay in Laramie. We love this town, we love this community, and we want to try and build this business here. Of course, there are significant hurdles to our scaling, and we're tripling every year. Every year we're tripling the size of our company, and we have been for the last 4 or 5 years. And of course, this is difficult to manage. But, you know, being part of this community has been a really big deal for us. And it's been very supportive. And so part of the goal here is for us to be able to build our headquarters here. And we are in the unique situation of needing something that's kind of unique because we are engaged in a lot of different activities. And so the goal of this grant is to build that facility. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that the City Council may have.
Actually, this grant will be coming before us in about a couple of weeks.
Great.
And right now, what we're more interested in doing is just hearing from the public and hearing if there's any comments or that type of thing. So,
All right, I'll leave it at that then.
thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to comment during this public hearing? Okay, seeing none?
Mayor,
Yes.
excuse me, Mayor. In a printout the city manager gave to us highlighting the whole program, there's a section about grant and loan request. Part of the public hearing, would it not be appropriate to put the amount of the grant and the amount of the loan in the public hearing so they are aware of how many dollars? Is that not appropriate, or do they not need to know?
No, I think that would be fine. That was not in the public hearing.
I know, that's why I'm saying, would it not be appropriate to add it to this public hearing?
Would you state what it is, and we can add it to the
Yeah.
record?
Well, it'd be a $2,685,750 grant and a $209,250 loan. And then there's land being donated by the chamber valued at $670,824. And then I think the rest of this may become public when
Right.
the other part comes, but just for public information.
Thank you. And we will be hearing this, I believe, City Manager, at our next council meeting,
2 weeks?
regular meeting in 2 weeks.
Correct. March 10th is your next regular meeting, or your next special meeting, excuse me. And the application will be in front of you that evening with the packet delivered on Friday, likely late afternoon.
So it'll be March 10th,
March
Less-
10th, yes.
less than 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, next Thursday.
Thank you.
That's week from Thursday.
All right, are there any further comments from the public on this subject? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and if you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, would you do roll call, please?
Hanson.
Here.
Henry.
Here.
Shumway.
Here?
Schuster.
Here.
Somerville.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Polikis.
Here.
That is 9 present, Your Honor.
Thank you. Are there any disclosures by council members on conflicts of interest concerning items we'll be discussing tonight? Item number 8, I'll turn it over to the Vice Mayor.
Okay, no changes to the agenda tonight, so I move that the agenda be set as submitted.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Shumway. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Vice Mayor?
I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Somerville. City Clerk, would you do roll call, please?
Hanson,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Shumway,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Vitale,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Yes.
Pierce, Kalikas.
Yes.
That is 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're on to the regular agenda. Item number 12, Councilor Henry.
Yes, as soon as it comes up on my screen.
You want to give it to her? Vicky, you need it? I have it right here.
Yeah, thank you. This is original ordinance number 1938 to amend Chapter 13.52, Section 13.52.010 of the Laramie Municipal Code concerning mosquito control fees. I move that council approve original ordinance number 1938 on third and final reading to amend Chapter 13.52, Section 13.52.010 of the Laramie Municipal Code concerning mosquito control fees, increasing the monthly utility user fee from $2.57 to $4.89 with an effective date of April 1st, 2016, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by the Vice Mayor. Director Harrison.
Honorable Mayor and Council, third and final reading on the mosquito control fee increase. If you'll note in your packet, I did receive another comment on February 17th after second reading from a citizen who requested to like to see efficacy of the mosquito control program as high as possible, particularly with those with compromised immune systems, and that the most effective mosquito control program possible, along with the reduction of West Nile virus, is critical for those with respiratory issues. So positive in nature, and after discussing with Mr. Robinson, and with that, I answer any questions on third and final reading.
Are there any questions from council? Thank you. Any comments from council? Why don't I open up to the public? Would any members of the public wish to address the council on this third and final reading? Yes, please come forward. Ms. Palmer, I believe.
I'm not known for my shyness.
You don't have to.
I have handouts. I'm Sally Palmer, 715 South 11th, and I teach a course called Religion and Science at the University of Wyoming. And if people are willing to, yeah, thank you. Each one. I want to thank you for honoring each one the web of life. That's what this ordinance is about. And so when there's increase of taxes, we've lived here for 33 years, we keep paying water, city taxes with, I'd say joy, because it's a gift to live in this place where the wind blows our troubles away. But simply speaking, what you've done and you will continue to do tonight is to honor the web of life. As I've walked in LaPrelle Park for 33 years, I noticed that, you know, certain things decrease as the insecticides increase, mainly barn swallows and fish and other things. And when I teach my students, as this document, which I won't read all tonight of, is like, you know, what happens to critters affects the rest of us. Just a matter of time. So you're welcome to ask me any questions, but it's like, thank you for knowing that we are part of the whole web of life.
Thank you very much.
No, any questions? But I'd be glad to be a part of a program, Dave, that honors how do we help other low-income people pay for this increased tax.
Yeah, that's a very good comment. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else wish to address council on this? Okay, are there any further comments from the city council on this subject? I had one question for the city manager, it was just brought up just now. We do, I know, have programs for our utilities and so forth for people that really have issues with being able to pay their utility bills. Is there any, does mosquito control also come into this type of thing? And I'm not sure who to address on that, on city manager?
Mayor and members of council, the city does have an assistance program for water bills. I'm looking up the link right now, but it is available on our city webpage. It is specific, however, to the cost of water as an essential commodity for life, basically. So it's not broadly applied across the entire city bill, but it is available. It's called the Low Income Affordable Water Rate Program.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Henry.
So at one of our readings, I brought up maybe a possibility of creating some sort of a link on our website that if people wanted to donate to this fund, because I would like to. I would donate a couple of dollars each month, and I think that if you had a lot of people that wanted to do that it could help to grow that fund a little more so that it's, maybe we won't have to keep increasing that fund.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councilor Hanson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just an observation that if I understand what we're doing here is trying to balance the environment with the safety of the citizens and try to come to some kind of a solution that addresses both items in a manner that is still affordable for us, even though it's more expensive, almost twice as expensive per household than the previous one. But there are certain things that probably cannot be done without compromising the safety of the citizens too. So it's sort of a very careful balancing act that we had to do here in order to take care of those two sides of the issue. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any further comments before we go to roll call? Councilor Weaver?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just quickly want to comment on the time and effort put in by members of the public to do research, present to council, go to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meetings, other meetings with park staff, mosquito staff, control staff, and then, of course, the council meetings. That should not go unnoticed. It's what drives policy changes, and it's important we do have engaged citizens in Laramie, and we're better off for it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. City Clerk, would you do roll call, please?
Henry.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Vitale.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes,
There's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
that motion carries. All right. On to our next item, item number 13, Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution certifying the Laramie Planning Commission's approval of the 2016 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Mr. Mayor, I move that council approve Resolution 2016-22, certifying the Laramie Planning Commission's approval of the 2016 Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and that the 2016 Parks and Recreation Master Plan replaces in its entirety the 1982 Comprehensive Plan for Parks, Recreation, and Open Space, a Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Henry. Director Harrison.
Honorable Mayor and Council, good evening. In front of you is the Comprehensive Parks and Recreation Master Plan. In 2011, you appointed an ad hoc advisory committee to take on this endeavor of updating this master plan with citizen community members. I don't know if it had been done previously, but it's certainly the largest effort that I think citizens and an ad hoc committee have ever been charged with doing. After 81 meetings, they've come together with a plan that was remanded back in in August of 2015 by the Planning Commission with concerns about the area, the 1 mile area and the extraterritorial area. Many of those ad hoc advisory members are here this evening, and I certainly need to acknowledge their efforts if you do pass this resolution and certify the Planning Commission's action. Dave Hammond was the chair, Joe Lord, Amy K. Williamson, Dan McCoy, Peggy McCracken, Bill Gribb, Mike Mueller, Evan O'Toole, Amber Travsky, Scott Molnar, Vicki Henry, and Nadia Kozłowski. And there is certainly a number of staff members who have been involved. First and foremost, Principal Planner Derek Teeney, Randy Hunt, his cohorts, Charles Bloom, a couple of planners who are no longer with the city, and Cody Jennings and Autumn Gonzalez. But before you, or with you, and hopefully you've all had a chance to get your copies from the city clerk over the past couple of weeks, have had a chance to review the master plan. The Planning Commission remanded it back with the charge to remove and strip out all those areas, references, text boxes in that 1 mile extraterritorial area. The ad hoc advisory committee met and did accept those recommendations in whole, except for not removing those service areas. The population-based estimates for future growth really depended upon those service areas remaining. There's many of those service areas that were both partially inside the city limits and the majority outside. Stripping those out, the numbers and the population estimates from the 2010 census would be disconnected and be very hard to follow, and you would not be able to understand this plan, and it wouldn't be good planning. So with that, they left them in, but they did remove all the references to those future icons and planning. They also, and you'll see throughout the entire plan, we went through all the words, all 481 pages, and removed references to those extraterritorial areas within the 1 mile. They did put in there through every goal and every service area to work with the county to come up with a Parks and Recreation master plan for these future areas. And we have certainly will start that endeavor. If you do certify this, we will forward this plan on to the Albany County Planning and Zoning Commission for their consideration and hopefully concurrence. I would note there is, by design, planning elements of city-owned property that remains in the county, and some of it, like the Laramie Rifle Range, far outside the 1 mile extraterritorial area. And that's really why we're going to work with the county and ask for concurrence and work on these areas within the 1 mile buffer area. So with that, the Planning Commission the Parks, Tree, and Recreation Advisory Board approved the master plan at their February meeting, and then the Planning Commission approved it in whole at their February 22nd meeting. It is a major effort that I'm very pleased to bring forward for your certification, and I would certainly answer any questions you have on the master plan.
Are there any questions? Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Honor. Just one observation, because what you just discussed is shrouded in a very cryptic sentence in this document, which is on page 3. I'll read it to you. You know, the sentence before it simply says, finally, the ad hoc committee recommended a table to be added to the plan that provided an overview of the whole community related to total area and projected population. Absolutely clear. But then it says, to be clear, and that's not quite clear. To be clear, elements outside city limits still exist within the draft master plan. You just mentioned that, according to this, the rifle range, for example. However, those elements that reference property outside the city limit only remain on city-owned property. Can you give me an exegesis of this sentence? There's either something is missing or something is not quite clear. I didn't understand it.
Probably, Honorable Mayor and Councilor Hanson, sentence certainly could have been clearer, but it certainly is, there's elements outside, not everything was stripped out. The only place you'll find those is on city-owned property, period. I would note, and it didn't get in your updated packet, and I apologize for that, at the Planning and Zoning Commission, from the public comment section, there was a couple of suggestions to remove language that was inadvertently missed on page 63, talking about future trailheads for access to Pole Mountain sometime in the future. The Planning Commission's recommendation was to remove that partial sentence. We have done that, and we'll do that if you certify this. But it should be noted that there is elements clearly outside the corporate boundary, but only on city-owned property. So the Monolith Ranch, it shows areas on the Monolith Ranch.
When you say elements, you mean markers or?
Icons, markers, correct.
Okay. I think that's probably the word that I'm missing here. you know.
References in the document.
References. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
They're-
Thank
they
you.
still remain.
If that's what it's meant, then I understand the sentence. Thank you.
Councilor Vitale.
Yeah, I think just to help Councilman Hanson, in 2011, the council did approve a resolution to accept and move forward with the master plan on for the city of Laramie and city-owned property. And then we also allocated 2 different years, $100,000 a year each year for the cost of doing the program. So I think any property outside the city limits that is city-owned, I think if there's plans for development or whatever open space that would be appropriate at that time. And
have a marker.
I think it also would be appropriate if they want to get easements on private property, that they go back, reinitiate that, notify the property owners, get them involved, discuss what you would like to do with them in conjunction with the county. They have a recreation department by then and move forward for a regional type of recreation program, which is not uncommon, and I think would be totally accessible, because I think a regional bike trail that would go from here to Cheyenne and possibly to Fort Collins, Walden, Centennial, and up and over would also, I think, be a part of a grand scheme in a bike trail plan. So I was not comfortable with icons, bike trails, parks, and language that trespassed on private property without that property owner's consent or even knowledge of it. And I won't even get into the number of discussions. There were many of them, and I won't get into any of that. But I think this plan addresses the current and future for city and city-owned property, wherever it may be, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, Vice Mayor.
You know, I really want to thank all the members of this committee. You guys did yeoman's work. Seriously, thank you very, very much for this. I am pretty sure I am not alone in the council members who really appreciate your efforts, especially when it got a little political. So I think you guys were firm and you hung strong, and I think that's great. So thank you very, very much.
Director Harrison.
Honorable Mayor, and I want to follow up on what Councilor Vitale said, because he's certainly accurate in his statements. And I should have read one of these statements that are in these service areas and all throughout the document that was added by the ad hoc committee. The city and Albany County should work together to determine the parks and recreation needs for areas outside the city limits in the future. You'll find that throughout the document now. I think Councilor Vitale also noted the budget allocation was upwards of $200,000 to complete this plan with a consultant, is typically the way we do these. After 81 meetings, and we've printed a number of these documents, and if you do certify this, we will do a final printing and put it online. I think we've completed this project with volunteers in the range of about $20,000, and most of that was for the printing and publication of various drafts and the meetings. So with my hats are off to that committee and So noted by Vice Mayor Pierce.
Thank you. Councilor Henry.
I just want to say that I am so thankful. I'm sure that it's going to be certified tonight. I'm hoping that it's going to be certified tonight on your last night here. Finally, after 5 years, I think it's time. So, and I was on that committee, and I don't think I was at 81 of those meetings, but I think I was at 75 of them. So it was strenuous work, but not as strenuous as what the staff did and what Mr. Harrison did, coordinated the whole effort. So I'm just really thankful that this has come before us tonight, on your last night. How appropriate.
Honorable Mayor and Councilor Henry, this is the institutional knowledge that I leave for the future of the community. I mean, a lot of the knowledge was over 35 years as in this document, so hopefully it will give the next Parks and Recreation Director, Todd, and future planners that insight and that guideline for how to proceed with future Parks and Recreation elements in this community over the next 35 years.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would wish to address council on this subject? Yes, Mr. Hammond.
You had dark hair when this started.
You didn't hear that comment.
I did not.
Something about you had dark hair when we started this process.
Yeah, that's true. My name's Dave Hammond, and I was on the committee. I also wanted to give Paul some accolades on that because he steered us through some choppy waters. I also felt like at the start of this committee, we gave birth to a child, and we went through the terrible twos, and we kept getting all the information gathered together, and it just seemed like every time we had a meeting, we'd kind of organize ourselves, I guess I would say, and we'd make sure that we had all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed. It's been a labor of love. I've enjoyed it. I will be very careful the next time I volunteer for a one-year term. I want to thank all the members that, the ad hoc committee and everybody that participated, especially Paul that got us through some of the choppy waters. He turned his cheek every time he got hit, so I think it's only appropriate he gets some accolades too. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please come forward, sir. Oh, John.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I am John Nutter, 1155 Inca Drive. And I just want to speak as a citizen and on behalf of several of my neighbors up in the northeast corner of the city. We are very much pleased with this plan. I want to echo the comments that you've just heard recently, especially want to commend the committee that put this work together. As citizens, we came to them, we worked with them, and we were successful in getting our thoughts included in the plan. A special, phenomenal job done by Paul Harrison and Derek Teeney. This has been a wonderful example, a phenomenal example of how citizens can work with their community, with the city staff, and come up with an excellent visionary product. So I would urge your certification of the plan, but not only that, but please move forward to implement it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? City Clerk, would you do roll call, please?
Weaver.
Yes.
Vitale.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Pelikas.
Yes.
That is 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you. That motion carries unanimously.
That's uncalled for.
Item number 14. Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask the city clerk to read original ordinance number 1937 by title.
An ordinance to enact Section 10.20.230 of the Laramie Municipal Code, use of handheld electronic wireless communication devices for electronic messaging prohibited, exceptions, penalties. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Laramie, Wyoming.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would move to pass original ordinance number 1937 and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Hanson. City Attorney.
Mayor, Council, this is third reading of this ordinance. We've gone through some changes. Second reading, there was an amendment made. I drafted that amendment, worked it in here, as you can see. The part that was changed, I included the words "to dial a phone number" under subsection A, and then in subsection D, I defined dial a phone number. As you can see, I just defined that as physically manipulating the handheld electronic wireless device to enter a phone number. I specifically said it does not mean pressing one button to get to your voice-operated technology, like Siri or whatever Google's version of Siri is. So.
Do we have any questions? Councilor Shumway.
I don't have a question, I have a comment. After reading through this, I'm amazed at how clear and how well stated this was. It was more than I had anticipated and hoped for. It seems very, very well written, and I appreciate the work that you did with that. Also, I know that there is, some still disagreement on what this ordinance should or should not include. The fine is $75, and I'm not convinced that there's going to be people that will spend very much money on attorneys trying to fight this. Should they be cited into this thing? And to me, I think about this, it's going to be very similar to the observation, were you or were you not wearing your seatbelt? It seems easy to enforce, easy to understand, and I support the changes that have been brought before us. I think they reflect what we ask you to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from council? Councilor Somerville.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we talked about the amendment that went through last time. And since we have the chief here, I was hoping that we could just hear from him and kind of get his perspective on the adding of dialing a phone number and how enforceable or unenforceable that piece of the ordinance is going to be.
Thank you. Chief?
Mayor and Council, I submitted a memo to you via City Attorney, and I don't know if you received that in your cover letter at all or not. And I apologize, I thought it was in there, so I did not bring copies with me tonight. I had several basic points in that memo to you. I feel, my first point is, I feel like talking on the phone is still legal in that automobile. So therefore, the action of dialing to complete that call should be legal as well. A number of people with the computers in the car, they don't even, either on the handheld device or on the vehicle device, they don't even dial anymore. So I think there needs to be a separation for clarity and prosecutorial success between making a phone call and texting. They're two very different actions, and I have concerns that with the both in there, that we're not going to be able to successfully prosecute those cases. Secondarily, I feel, and probably my biggest issue, is that this incorporates state statute exactly. That statute has been vetted by the Attorney General. That statute has been vetted by the legislature. That statute has been vetted all the way through enforcement and possibly, although not known to me, clear through the Supreme Court. And I think that to add additional language to that is going to set us up for an appeal. And we've seen that on other cases that have been forward. I just feel like the statutory language, and I would take you back to the discussion we had about whether we should ban cell phones or not. my biggest concerns is we have a transitory population in this community. And due to that, we are continually re-educating incoming freshman students at the University of Wyoming. They're used to dialing a phone and making phone calls all around the state. It's not widely known around the state that you can't do these. I have a concern about just that overall fairness in enforcement when we throw in basically what I see as a curveball. So those were my concerns. I was just told that your memo was in your inboxes and Janine just sent it to you. So my memo is in your inboxes and she just sent it to you. I apologize that didn't get to you for consideration. My biggest point is both separation of what we're trying to tackle here. As I mentioned the last time, I like that consistency. And I would have no opposition if the state incorporated or passed a law against using a phone. I just feel like when we've got a number of different people coming from all over, not just the state, but the country, that disparity causes us enforcement issues. And I really feel like we could be up for an appeal based on the amendment that was provided to you. That said, my memo ends by saying, whatever you guys pass, we'll do the best job that we can to enforce.
Thank you. I'll go to Councilor Shamway since he introduced it, and then I'll go to Councilor Hanson and Councilor Vitale.
And again, I think the city of Laramie has been the leader in the state in many issues. This is, in my opinion, one of them. 31 states have already passed no dialing laws, so we're not new to this thought. It's just that I think it's time for us to look at the safety. I personally took the time to go to a parking lot where I wouldn't have an accident to see how long it would take me to dial a 10-digit number, and it's one which I didn't even feel safe in the parking lot doing it. I don't know how people can feel safe driving around this community where we have so many intersections and things we have to be aware of with not only people walking, riding bicycles and all that, but I think it's one of those things which is not new. It's an idea that I think has its, we as the city of Laramie again need to take the lead and say, we're going to do something for safety, and if we err, it's going to be on the side of safety. And so I still support the changes that were implemented here as they're written by our city attorney, and I appreciate the chief saying that he would enforce them. I don't think it's any more difficult than enforcing wearing a seatbelt.
Thank you. Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Your Honor. The observation that the chief made, I think it's addressed in the ordinance as written under D, where the attorney added the phrase, "For purposes of this section, dial a phone number does not mean pressing one button on the electronic wireless communication device to activate voice-operated technology." So I think what you suggested, that there are newer devices where you just push one button and you get the phone number or whatever, that's not meant here. It is indeed the 10 or 11 number dialing if you do that. And from the enforcement standpoint, it occurs to me that's not that hard to enforce because this is very close to texting. If you hold your phone up there and you're texting or you dial an 11-digit number, that can be observed from the outside. So I think the enforcement actually would become easier that way with this phrase in it, because you shouldn't hold your phone up there and do button gyrations. And that's addressed here. So I support this amendment. I think it's excellently written. And the other observation that I have, coming back to the liquor license or our liquor laws that we passed, we can always be more restrictive than the state ordinances or the state statutes are. And in this way, we are somewhat more restrictive, and I don't think there is any danger in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Vitale.
I'm not sure what the interpretation is, but there are many service vehicles, business vehicles that are traveling around the city on a daily basis, and somebody from the main office may call a person in a service vehicle and say, you know, we have this situation at such and such an address, and while they're communicating on the phone for that information, and when it's done, generally the person operating that service vehicle will dial that residence or business or something to see if they're available for them to come in. I don't know if they're going to be considered under the other vehicles, or if all these people that rely on their business are driving and getting these messages and have to dial to follow up to provide a service, if they're going to be ticketed for doing business while they're in their vehicle. And how do you distinguish pushing 10 buttons or 7 buttons, you know, to make a service call in the performance of your business duties versus just dialing somebody you want to chit chat about and, you know, get a reminder to make sure you bring home the bread and milk, you know, or whatever. I just, I guess I still struggle with the enforcement issue and the intent and the purpose on this, and where you split hairs on pushing buttons to make a business call versus pushing buttons to text a message to a friend or a person. That's just, you know, unnecessary really when you're driving. So I'm struggling between, you know, how a police officer going down the street sees somebody, it'd be pretty obvious. I mean, if they're in a vehicle that's marked for whatever business or service they are, I just struggle with that part of this enforcement.
City Attorney.
Mayor and Council, enforcing this ordinance is, the word enforcement and the word prosecute, I guess, I would say are different. My office's role would be in prosecuting, so I'm not going to say how I would be enforcing it. I mean, that's the police chief's purview. Prosecuting it is going to be difficult because you have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Prosecuting the state law is difficult. I don't think this is going to change that a whole lot. And just to address the reading it with state law issue, what you look at is whether or not the city ordinance supersedes the state law, and I don't believe this does. I think you can read them together, and I think we're within our right to do this. Doesn't mean someone won't appeal it, but I think the chances of doing so on a $75 ticket are fairly low anyway. Unless, of course, an attorney gets cited, then maybe.
Thank you. Councilor Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I appreciate that the chief was able to articulate his concerns, which I share. I do not want to create something that we don't necessarily have on the books because we can't enforce it or it's not really necessary. I absolutely support the texting amendment. So I'd like to move to amend this ordinance to strike the phrase dial a phone number in paragraph 10-20-230 section A and to strike D1.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second by the vice mayor, and I just want to check with the city attorney. Is this striking the amendment that we passed substantially last time? And if so, by our rules, are we allowed to do that?
Yes, I think it'd be easier just to strike the amendment and go back to the prior one, because I did change in A 1, 2, and 3. There was some minor changes in there too, just so it made sense.
Okay, and the second part of my question was, by our rules, which I believe is Robert's Rules of Order, are we allowed to take on the third reading, take an amendment that was passed on the second reading and reintroduce it for consideration.
Yes, you can do that.
Thank you.
City
Councilor
Attorney, could you
Somerville.
clarify how I would phrase that to just make it simpler?
Remove the amendment.
Can I just say remove the amendment that was passed on second reading?
Right.
I would withdraw my previous and move to remove the amendment that was passed on second reading.
It's fine with me.
Thank you. All right, we're on to the amendment. Discussion on the amendment by council. Council, or Vice Mayor?
So, and it's not that I said this before. I mean, I think first of all, we need to get in line with state law so we can move this into municipal court, number one. Then I think we should come back potentially at a work session and add or hammer out some other of these finer points. And that was my original hope. That was what I said during first reading. And that's what I'd really like to see now. Not that I think that this is a bad idea regarding the dialing, because I think it's a great idea. But number one, I want us to be in line with state law and in municipal court. So that's why I'm going to support the amendment, just so we can get that piece taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. Should we, defeat this, should we strike the amendment and move forward with this, we'll have a document now that moves into municipal court. If we do not and leave it in there, we have a ordinance that now moves from district court into the municipal court, but it also has the stipulation that, that there's no texting or dialing. I don't know that this really, I think the main momentum or reason for this is to get it so that we can deal with it in the municipal court for the citations that our officers do. To me, to pass one with the thoughts of bringing it back later and hammering out, changes and things like that, I don't know if that would happen in the near future. I would guess that it probably will not or would not. If it does, great, but for me, I think it's time for us now to do the right thing, to put it in municipal court with the wording in here, the language that says no dialing, no texting, and that's the way the city ordinance reads. So I oppose the striking the amendment that we passed with the majority in the last city council meeting, just to leave it the way it's written now. I think it's clear and understandable, and so I do support the way it's here, and I will not vote for the striking of the amendment.
Thank you. Councilor Hanson, then Councilor Vitale.
Neither will I. It strikes me that what's not as important to me is moving it into some municipal court. I couldn't care less, but it's nice to have it there. But what I think is important is that you ought to keep your eyes on the traffic and on the road. And that's what the amendment was dealing with, that you take your eyes off the road and start dialing 10 numbers there. And as Councilor Shumway pointed out, that takes quite a bit of time during which you are not concentrating on driving a car. You can always stop the car on the side of the road and dial your 10-digit number. So I would not support it.
Thank you. Councilor Vitale?
Yeah, I noticed a couple of weeks ago, a DUI ordinance was passed, which in essence moved that process from the district court to municipal court, which means municipal court, which is the city's collecting more revenue. And now the issue here again is to move this from district court to municipal court, where again the city is collecting more revenue. I wonder if the motive is to create more revenue streams rather than is to provide health and safety issues to this community. And I'll support an ordinance that is consistent with the state statute, but I see, there's just too many add-ons here that's gonna create too many complications, and I still have a problem with the enforceability rule. I push one button, I can drive down the street, push one button, and I can talk and deactivate it without taking my hands off the wheel, without looking anywhere.
And that will still be
I don't have a handheld device. I will probably never have one. I want to hold the phone, I can go home and pick it up and hold it.
Okay,
I have problems with this.
we're on the amendment, and then we'll get back to the main motion. Any further discussion on the amendment? I have one question for the chief. There's a challenge, from what I perceive, as to trying to figure out when a person's driving and using their cell phone, just exactly what they're doing with it, whether they're pushing buttons or talking to it or whatever. Is there a difference between figuring out whether a person's texting and being able to logically write a ticket for that would be enforceable in court compared to pushing buttons to dial a number?
Mayor and members of the council, as I mentioned in the memo, I can perceive that, and again, it's not the enforcement. Somebody's punching a button, somebody's, fingering that phone, somebody's texting. From the outside, it all looks similar to the officer, and the citation can be written. I believe the problem comes with that beyond a reasonable doubt. If I can identify that phone, look at it, and timestamp that text message, then that puts me further beyond a reasonable doubt. If somebody is pushing the buttons and I stop them and they haven't completed that call, I have no evidence. I have no beyond that reasonable doubt. And again, it's not me, it's the prosecutor and the judge. That's why I prefer where we're at with the state statute, because I could be holding that phone. That was my example in the memo. I can be just holding it, doing nothing with it. I can be pushing one button to make that call. I could be pushing one button, going 2 blocks, pushing another button, going 3 blocks, pushing another button. And the enforcement's not a problem. In fact, I agree it may simplify the enforcement. I believe the challenge comes from successfully prosecuting the case. Enforcement's no good without successful prosecution.
Okay. Councilor Shumway.
When I dial a number, using a number, and then I put my phone down, and I pick it back up, I can go to the history where it says, calls being made, and it'll show the number I called was, let's say it's number 6, or I can do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and not complete the number, and it shows the numbers in here. Just like uncompleted texts remain there, you can go to history of phone calls, and on my phone, I can still see that that's there. I don't know, if the police say, give me your phone so I can check it, I don't know if that's what they would do, but if they want to check it, they can check whether you've put in numbers or whether you put in letters. And they can see on a text or they can see on a phone dial on this phone whether that's being done or not, whether it's been sent or whether it was incomplete. Because when I go back, it shows that was an incomplete number on my phone.
Yes.
Mayor and Councilor Shumley, that's why I stipulated. If that call's not completed, I don't have that evidence based. I don't have that proof that the phone call was actually made. I don't have that timestamp. I believe that makes it more difficult in the prosecution.
On my phone, it does.
Not if you don't complete that.
I have another follow-up on that, Chief. What was my follow-up? Oh, I know what it was. Does a police officer have the ability to inspect a phone during a traffic stop?
We can ask for
stop.
consent. If we don't have consent, then we don't. Then we have got to go on our best evidence.
Okay.
That's the phone number 25. It didn't.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let me go to, unless there's anything else from council, let me go to the public concerning the amendment. Would anyone wish to comment on it? City Clerk, roll call, please. This is to the amendment.
Somerville,
Yes.
Vitale,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Schuster,
Yes.
Shumway,
No.
Henry,
No.
Hanson,
No.
Pierce,
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
That is 4 yeses and 5 noes, Your Honor.
Okay, so the amendment, the amendment fails, the old amendment's still on. So we're back to the main motion. Counselor Schuster.
I feel so sorry for the police department. We have passed some laws in the last 10 years that have been just, I like it that there's no smoking, but they joke about it. There's the smoking police. There's the junk car police. There's the tall grass and weed police. There is, it'd now be the phone police. All of these, and I'm gonna call them that way, ticky-tack laws that prevent the police from basically doing I don't wanna say their jobs, because maybe we're gonna say this is their job. We passed all these rules and ordinances. But, yeah, I just think it's a little comical. The law we passed when previously on council, when Dave O'Malley inserted it, of driving while distracted, did bring it to the municipal court for dialing a phone, distracted while dialing, while talking on the phone, because I've seen some people that can't talk without their hands, and things like that, changing lanes from dropping their coffee cup, cheeseburger, french fries, anything else. Driving while distracted, I felt covered a lot of that stuff. We joke about it's against the law to use a catapult inside the city limits or carry a slingshot in your back pocket. We have too many things from preventing good law enforcement. This phone thing is already covered. It's already on the books. It is called driving while distracted. You may say it's a catch-all law or whatever, but it's there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further, this is on the main motion. Any further comments from council? Would anyone from the public wish to comment on the main motion? We'll go to roll call. City Clerk.
Shumway,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Schuster,
No.
Somerville,
No.
Vitale,
No.
Weaver,
Yes.
Pierce,
No.
Polikis.
Yes.
That is 5 yeses and 4 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you. That main motion carries. We'll take a short break before we get to our next item. Thank you. I'll call this meeting back to order. We're on to our next item, which is item number 15. Councilor Schuster.
All right, this is a final plot for 2 commercial lots at 3025 Fort Sanders Road, south of Laramie. And this is in our out-of-city limits, but within our 1-mile jurisdiction. I move to approve the branch subdivision final plot based on findings of fact and conclusions of law, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the plot.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Henry. Senior Planner Bloom.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, this is the final plat for a 2-lot commercial subdivision in the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction. The preliminary plat was approved by the City Council on December 1st, 2015. Likewise, it was also approved by the County Board of County Commissioners and also the County Planning and Zoning Commission. This item was actually reviewed by the City Planning Commission on February 1st, February 8th, 2016. The review by the Planning Commission was to look at whether or not the final plat complied with the conditions of preliminary plat approval. They found that the final plat does comply with those conditions and have recommended that the City Council approve this item as well. The Board of County Commissioners will be reviewing this final plat at their March 15th meeting. In communication with the county, there have been no issues that are expected. We are both recommending approval of the final plat that's presented today. I'm open for any questions you may have regarding the application, and I know the applicant's representative is here to answer any specific questions about the proposed subdivision.
Any questions? Are there any comments from council? Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to comment on this application?
Let's go with it.
City Clerk, could you do roll call, please?
Schuster.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Vitale.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
That is 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 16, Councilor Henry.
This is original ordinance number 1922A, amending Title 8 of the Laramie Municipal Code for the purposes of creating health and safety standards for mobile homes, manufactured homes, recreational vehicles, and tents. I move to approve original ordinance number 1922A on third and final reading based on findings of fact and conclusions of law, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Hanson. Senior Planner Bloom.
Honorable Mayor and Council, this is related to the next 2 items on your agenda as well. Those are also related to the mobile home park licensing processes. You guys are very familiar with this process. We actually held a listening session on February 17th, 2016 at Fire Station Number 2 in the evening. We had several members of the public show up. Of those members of the public, we had a citizen, we had a park resident, an employee of one of the mobile home parks, and representatives that actually represented 7 of the 26 mobile home parks that we have in the community. Some of the comments we received, those are all listed here in the staff report, but they were based around trying to make sure that all of the manufactured home communities in town have a level playing field. So, for example, that they're all being enforced equally, that we should look at different setback requirements, their concerns as to why license only mobile home parks and not all of our rental housing in town. There was questions over, there was overwhelming support of removing the prohibition of the change of occupancy or sale of non-HUD mobile homes. For example, if you have a pre-76 mobile home right now on the books, it is unlawful to sell or rent or change occupancy of that mobile home. So there was support issued to remove that, which is what the second ordinance actually is proposing. There's also support to allow for recreational vehicles in manufactured home communities, allow the intermingling of those RVs in manufactured home communities, also allow for tiny homes in manufactured home communities. And there was some additional comments regarding tiny homes, recreational vehicles, and campers could be allowed as accessory dwelling units on private property in other zoning districts. There also were more comments regarding making the redevelopment process of mobile home parks easier, so lessening some of the landscaping requirements and the triggers to bring them all up to code. And some more requests to explore third-party inspection programs that would be borne by the mobile home park owners for the units being placed in there. So those comments are actually summarized here. They're also on the city website at cityoflaramie.org/MHP, as in mobile home park. We haven't had any additional feedback regarding those comments that were done. Staff is actually requesting that the council, postpone this to the May 19th meeting, and that you guys provide direction as to what type of amendments you would like to see in these ordinances so we can draft something up accordingly. Because right now, if it were just postponed without direction, we'd essentially bring you back the same ordinance you have today, and we would like to have some more direction to try to draft something up that would address your concerns. So with that, I'm open to any questions you may have regarding this. Yes?
I'll go to Councilor Henry.
No, she introduced, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so I was going to move to postpone, but shall we, what I want to know is, can we have a work session on this
That's what exactly.
before the May 19th meeting?
Honorable Mayor and City Council, we'd be open to a work session to discuss some alternatives.
Because I'm not really prepared to talk about all this tonight because I was under the impression that we were going to postpone it, so.
I think the only discussion right now prior to the postponement should be is what avenue do we want to provide feedback to the staff? Is a work session more appropriate, or is it individual comments more appropriate? Now, here in work session, I believe. Is there anybody that would think another avenue would be better? Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Your Honor. From what I heard from this last public session, the only thing that struck me was that there was a suggestion, because there are lots of older homes in town that are not being inspected, we should not inspect mobile homes, which is sort of a spurious argument, quite frankly. It makes no sense to me. We could, of course, pass an ordinance to inspect older homes if we want to, but this has nothing to do with this. I didn't see anything else. Some of the suggestions were to allow the intermingling of whatever mobile homes and recreational vehicles, etc. I thought that was in the original ordinance something that was to be avoided. And so now they're coming back and say they wanted to do that. I thought in the ordinance that we have before us, there's a statement, you can have a segment, a defined segment of recreational vehicles in a mobile home park, but it should be a defined part, should have a certain size, it should be separate, etc. And I thought we addressed all that. So I didn't see anything grave, and unless I missed something, that was brought forward that I think speaks against the ordinance that I would want to adopt. So I'm ready to adopt the darn thing as it is, quite frankly. Unless you tell me I missed something that the public brought forward as concern that's addressed in the ordinance in any other way, but we wouldn't want it any different way. Okay, so that's where I am.
So if I interpret that correctly,
I want to go, not postpone.
and not have a work session. Other comments as to the direction we should go in. I thought I saw her hand. No?
No.
Vice Mayor?
In terms of that postponement, I know we usually get a lot of community members, city members coming in and talking about this and sharing their views. I am worried that they may have been told that we are postponing, and I don't know that, but I'm curious if that's the case, and if that's the case, I would feel bad about moving forward. It wasn't in the paper?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
That it was postponed, that it would be postponed.
Councilor Vitale?
Yeah, I've had two owners contact me today and said they would not be here if it's gonna be postponed.
Okay.
And I think Councilwoman Henry is correct. Because a lot of these recommendations and talking to a couple owners, they're assuming these things are gonna be incorporated into the ordinance, but it doesn't sound, it sounds like they're just comments received, not part of it. So I would support the postponement, and I'd also support the work session too.
Okay, Councilor Schuster?
I just wanted to echo that because you kind of went off on an area, Klaus, that we had, I don't know how many you said, maybe 20 people show up, the way you were talking on comments there?
In total, there were actually, it was 8 people there that represented 7 of the mobile home parks.
Okay, I thought you said you had some people that lived in them.
Yes, sorry, some of the representatives own multiple parks.
Okay, so 10, 11 people, and they gave a lot of comments, and I would kind of like to hear it from them, or, because I doubt they were written down, you just took notes down there, so I would like to hear from those constituents, because whether they live in a house or live in a mobile home, they're still a resident of Laramie, so I would like to hear that.
Right. What I'd like to make a suggestion, we have an opportunity later on in the meeting to request work sessions. We can address the work session at that time. The only comment I would make now is that what might be appropriate is not only a work session, but another public hearing, because I'm not sure, work sessions are for us to gain information as a council from staff. Public hearings are more appropriate to hear from the public as to the direction they'd like to see things go in. That's their opportunity to give information to us. Work sessions are an opportunity for staff to give information to us. So we may want to combine the two in some way. We could even do it at the same night, and I'll leave it at that. Any further discussion before we go to the...
For a motion.
For the postponed motion. Thank you. All right. Councilor Henry.
Okay, so I would move to postpone original ordinance number 1922A to May 19th, 2016.
Second.
Motion and a second by Councilor Vitale. Any further discussion on the motion? City Clerk, would you do roll call, please?
Henry.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Hanson.
No.
Yes.
Somerville. Schuster.
Yes.
Vitale.
Yes.
Weaver.
No.
Pierce.
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
That's 7 yeses and 2 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you. That motion carries. Item number 17, Councilor Henry.
This is original ordinance number 1923A, amending Title 15 of Laramie Municipal Code for the purposes of amending Section 15.22.050, non-conforming mobile homes. I move to approve original ordinance number 1923A on third and final reading based on findings of fact and conclusions of law, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Shumway.
And now I move to postpone original ordinance number 1923A to May 19th, 2016.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion to postpone and a second by Councilor Shumway. Any further discussion on the postponement? Yes, Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to quickly say, I think that the points raised in favor of postponing this are valid, and they're strong points, and the need for the public input and discussion and the careful approach to this is understood. I do want to just add the other piece of the conversation, and that is that the issues that we're trying to address and that the staff has been trying to address with these proposed ordinances are still there. They're still salient in the community. Hindsight's always 20/20. I think maybe this should have been something we included in the goal, is to actually tackle and finish this this project as a council this year, because I think we really do need to. It has been going on for some time. It has been an enormous user of staff time. I do think the careful approach is absolutely the way to go, but I think the other part of this conversation is there are still some serious issues we need to we need to do those working with the owners of these mobile home parks, but those problems are still out there, and I think they're real problems. So I do hope that as we move down a few more months into May, that when we take a look at this again, we take a look at it with the goal of completing these ordinances and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the postponement? City Clerk, or Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to observe that in this ordinance, there are just two minor changes. Section 2 has eliminated some wording, except for mobile home parks set forth in section da-di-da-di-da, and section 3 has been deleted in its entirety. So, for my taste, at least this one could be passed, because there's not much that has been changed. There's nothing much of controversial nature. So I intend to vote against postponement for the reason that I voted on the first one. I think we have moved this thing around for how many years now? 2 years. And we leave everybody hanging because, once we get close to it, somebody else comes along and says, yes, but I don't like this particular part. You've got to come to a point of passing a law sometime. So that's my reason. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else to the postponement? I guess I have a quick question for staff. If we were not to postpone this and vote on this, this has to do it. Please.
Honorable Mayor, this ordinance right here, what this has to deal with is the change in occupancy. It really does not have any bearing on the other two ordinances. It's kind of independent. The section that's deleted, 15.18.050, is the one that prohibits the change in occupancy of those non-conforming ones.
Correct.
So it would, as Councilor Hanson mentioned, it would remove that waiting that a lot of people have been waiting for, and some of the concerns that citizens have had.
Thank you. I guess I'll just make a statement for what it's worth. I agree with Councilor Hanson, and I think I will be voting not to postpone this item. Any further comments from council before we vote on the postponement? Any members of the public wish to comment on the postponement? City Clerk, would you do roll call? This is on the postponement of item number 17.
Hanson.
No.
Henry.
No.
Shumway.
No.
Schuster.
No?
Somerville.
She's absent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Vitale.
No.
Weaver.
No.
Pierce.
Yes.
Kaligas.
No.
That is 1 yes and
Good job.
7 noes, Your Honor.
All right, so we're back to item number 17
And
for
one absent.
discussion. I will call on Senior Planner Bloom. You're on the spot.
All right, Honorable Mayor, so you guys just denied the postponement, which that means,
We are acting on third reading of this item.
yes, do you have any questions or comments regarding the item?
Counselor Hanson.
I think it was very clearly pointed out by Mr. Bloom that there is an interest in having this move forward, very simply because there are people who have older mobile homes that are in trouble with, maybe wanting to get somebody else to buy it, et cetera, and we have a prohibition against that, and that's what we are addressing here, to do away with that prohibition so that these things can continue to exist. So I think this is very much a matter in favor of mobile home owners, and actually somewhat with a bad conscience on the city's part, because we wanted to actually get rid of older mobile homes, but we said as long as they are safe and conform to certain, regulations or whatever, certain safety standards, I think they can be moved from one owner to another, and that's what's being addressed here, nothing else. Am I correct?
Honorable Mayor, if I may add real quick, yes, you are correct. What we do, back in 1989, this ordinance was created, and it said by the year 2000, so they kicked the can down the road 11 years. So by the year 2000, you'll either have these units gone, or you'll have magically brought them up to code. If you haven't done that, you're going to live in there, not change it. You will live there when you die, or you move, it goes to the landfill. That was the intent of the ordinance that was passed back then. What has occurred is some people are lawful. Some people say, oh, I can't sell it. Other people say, well, this is for sale for $5,000. Cash, register as a motor vehicle next door at the courthouse, no questions asked, it's done. Half of the comments that we get are people that may pick up an article in the Boomerang, they might find a Facebook feed, or they just are told by a resident, hey, it's illegal to buy that mobile home, to sell that mobile home, and they're concerned because now they've made an investment of $5,000 or $6,000, and they're like, well, can I go back to the prior owner and, get a refund? No, municipal court can't do that. That's more of a civil matter between them that have to be dealt with at the district court level. Really, we have a handful of folks that do follow the law, usually if it's within a sale of a realtor where they have some type of professional certification to maintain and a level of honesty there, but there's a lot of the people that just don't know that restriction and it gets sold. So yeah, passing this ordinance would make a lot of people feel better about their investments they have done, and remove that from the books. And this would not prohibit people from bringing, or this would still continue the prohibition from bringing these older units into the town.
Yes.
This only affects the ones that are in the town right now. And looking at the staff report, you can see the years of our mobile homes that we have in town. So I think it was roughly about 300 units in town that are positively affected by this.
Thank you. Counselor Henry.
I think my question was answered because I was wondering what you just said. It doesn't affect people being able to bring more into town, only the ones that are already here. Now, what if later on we were to pass something that required inspections or whatever that we do? Would these be still the non-conforming mobile homes? Would they still be, I can't think of the word, would they fall under the regulation of having to be inspected before they were inhabited?
Honorable Mayor, Councilor Henry.
Rented or whatever.
Yeah, I think you're looking for grandfathered, is
Yeah.
that the word? Would they be
Yes,
grandfathered?
yes,
It really would depend on how we would word that ordinance. We could set up an ordinance, if we were to require inspections, that would say any pre-76, existing in the city at this time is subject to this inspection at a certain date, similar to that 1989 ordinance I just referenced, where it said 11 years this will happen. They typically call it like an amortization. So we could set it up that way, or we could identify them as non-conforming and let them have their grandfather clause.
Okay, so it just depends on how we write it.
Yeah.
All right.
Or you could tie it to a rental inspection program or some type of other program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor, or Vice Mayor?
So, not that I disagree with moving forward with this, but I still am very concerned with the fact that we told people we were postponing. And I just want to say that again, so I'm not going to support this. Not that I don't think it's a good idea, we just told folks we were going to postpone. And I think we should stick to our word.
Other comments by
I
council?
did no such thing.
Let me just say this, what was just said, and I consider that too. What we're passing here is universally wanted by the residents. There's been no contention, there's been no arguments to the other side of the issue, and I've considered that also, but I'm very comfortable in passing this, knowing that it has the support of our manufactured home inhabitants. So, any further comments from council on this? Anyone from the public wish to comment? City Clerk, would you do roll call?
Shumway,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Somerville,
No.
Yes.
Vitale, Weaver,
Yes.
Pierce,
No.
Polikis.
Yes.
That is 7 yeses and 2 noes, Your Honor.
That motion carries. Item number 18, Councilor Henry.
This is original ordinance number 1924, amending Title 15 of the Laramie Municipal Code for the purposes of amending Laramie Municipal Code Chapters 15.14 and 15.28 regarding mobile home parks, manufactured home communities, and recreational vehicle parks. I move to approve original ordinance number 1924 on third and final reading based on findings of fact and conclusions of law, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Vitale. Councilor Henry.
I move to postpone original ordinance number 1924 to May 19th, 2016.
Second.
There's a motion to postpone and a second by Councilor Vitale. Discussion on the postponement? Councilor Hanson?
Thank you. Could we have a sort of an overview why we are postponing it? Because I'm looking at the changes here. Again, it is dealing with terminology that we are changing. About one section is reserved, but then it says taking out, I guess, creating only one term, right, for mobile homes instead of manufactured or whatever. Am I not correct?
City staff.
Honorable Mayor and Councilor Hanson, I have the wrong tab open. This is very related to the first ordinance, Section 5, which deletes LMC 15-24050, deletes the current regulations. So this is integral to that first ordinance, 1922A. They work in tandem. 1922A is dealing with Title 8. 1924, which is this one, that is dealing with everything in Title 15.
Yeah.
If we could amend both titles with one ordinance, they'd all be together, but we were advised by earlier legal staff that we couldn't.
Well, then we're sort of at a cleft stick here, right? Since
Yeah.
we
This one would,
made the first one or postponed the first one, by needs, we need to postpone this one, right?
that is correct.
All right, let's hope we find a majority for it.
Thank you.
Be very confusing if you don't.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments by council? Would anyone from the public wish to comment on this? City Clerk, would you do roll call?
Somerville,
Yes.
Vitale,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
That motion passes. Item number 19, Councilor Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is original ordinance 1939, dealing with the annexation of the northeast corner of I-80 and Curtis Street. I would move to approve original ordinance number 1939 on first reading, annexing approximately 93 acres of property located in unincorporated Albany County, generally located on the northeast corner of I-80 and Curtis Street, based on findings of facts and conclusions of law, set a public hearing for March 22nd, 2016, and delay second reading until April 5th, 2016.
Second.
Motion and a second by Councilor Schuster. Councilor Vitale.
Just a clarification. Apparently this land is currently in the county. I don't see anything in here, and maybe I misread it or didn't read it, but I see our Laramie Planning Commission has approved the annexation, but I don't see anything where the county has concurred. Is the county aware their land is being annexed, or?
Why don't I get a report from staff, and then we can probably get that question addressed.
Yeah.
Mayor and
Senior
Council.
Planner Tini.
Good evening. You have three items. You have three items on the agenda this evening. You have that are all essentially related. You have an annexation, you have a comprehensive plan amendment, and then you have a zoning amendment. What you'll see is that the annexation and the zoning amendment are for approximately 93 acres and includes property that is owned by, if you look into the staff report there, Wyoming Central Land and Improvement Company, as well as Albany County. The majority of the land is owned by the Wyoming Central Land and Improvement Company. The remainder part of the land is owned by Albany County. The part that's owned by Albany County is actually part of Banner Road. There's a piece of Banner Road that remains outside of city limits, right as you come off of Curtis Street. To quickly address Councilmember Vitale's question, Albany County has signed off on the application for both annexation and zoning, which is what's required for this. What will actually happen with all three of these items is this property will be then annexed at your third reading coming up in April here. As it goes through the process, you will then change the comprehensive plan once it's been annexed into the city, and then you will be zoning the property to conform with zoning regulations, which all annexed properties have to be zoned. So that's kind of the progression as to what will happen. This was before the county commissioners about 2 months ago for their signature and authorization to proceed forward with the annexation. So going specifically into the annexation, which is the item that's on before you right now, like I said, it's for 93 acres. It'll annex majority of property that's kind of located in that corner of the I-80 and Curtis interchange. It includes some road right-of-way. With all annexations, an annexation report is required to be prepared. As you'll note in the staff report, staff has provided information regarding water and sewer service, which once this is annexed, that will be provided and the site will use that. Fire and police protection, you don't really see any major changes in that because it's in such close proximity to the city already, with patrols and access to fire hydrants and fire protection already in that area right off of Banner Road. Public and private infrastructure improvements will be included likely at the stage as when this property is developed. Not only will you see road improvements in this area, the applicants have indicated that there will likely be infrastructure improvements regarding water and sewer as they continue to develop the property with their intended gas station service center, which is what they hope to do at the site. In addition to the analysis that we've provided, you'll see that there are revenue streams and numbers that have been provided within the staff report, including things such as building permit and development review. So as this property develops, regardless of if it is a Love's travel station or not, we will see revenue regarding building permits, site plan reviews, tap fees as well. You'll see water and sewer fees are pretty different depending upon the the size of taps that are requested by the applicant at this stage. We don't know exactly what they're going to desire and what their water needs will be. You'll also see in there, we'll provide solid waste service. That also varies in terms of how much we would receive in revenue from the city. You'll see the mosquito control, something that was on this evening, is also addressed. Emergency response, as I noted, snow removal being performed in the area as well. When you go down through this all, you'll also note we've provided information regarding property taxes, as well as the value in which other properties in the area of similar development receive for not only the county but for the city. In summary, the annexation report really is intended to provide council as well as members of the public an idea as to the reason as to why we should annex this property. Will it be a benefit to the city? And in our summary, we believe it is. It does make sense to annex this property. The size of the property and where it's located is a common area in which you see cities grow in and around. And also you'll note within the revenue analysis and summary there that we should see revenue brought into the city, not only one-time revenues, things like building permits, tap fees, road improvements and things like that, but also perpetual revenue through property taxes. I will note that we did receive public comments regarding the annexation. We had received one prior to the Planning Commission, or this item going to the Planning Commission. It was an adjacent property owner was questioning how the annexation may affect his property now that he would be adjacent to the city. We also had questions from two other property owners in the area, mostly inquiries as to what was going on, what might go there, what the process was, and so we provided that information to those individuals as well. Staff does believe that this annexation meets those required findings of fact, and we do recommend approval of the annexation.
Questions for staff? Councillor Hanson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I mean, we've done a lot of, not very many, but we have done annexations before. It is my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that City Council has never entertained an annexation that did not start from a request of the property owner wanting to be annexed, because there are certain fees involved here. There are certain conditions that have to be fulfilled, et cetera, et cetera. Am I correct? Because I'm trying to find that in here. Is this a request of the property owner wanting to be annexed?
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that. This is not a forced annexation in any way, shape, or form. We are entertaining something that has come from a property owner wanting to be annexed to the city. And what I hear the county's role in this would be to acquiesce to that request. I guess the county could say, no, you can't annex us. I don't know whether the county has the right to do that. I mean, I just wanted to clarify what's going on here. We are not forcing anything on anybody, but we are acquiescing to something that is coming to us as a request from a property owner.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Schuster?
Just what I wanted to try to shorten. This sale is conditioned on if it is annexed. So if for some reason you say, no, you don't want it, then the people don't get to sell their property that they want to sell. Nobody's forcing anything on anybody.
Thank you. Councillor Vitale?
Yeah, well, for the record, I'd like to see a copy of, from the proposed people that they're requesting annexation. And then I'd also like to see a copy when the county has agreed to it and released it. Either one of them documents are contained anywhere in here, and I think I would be hesitant to support this until I see those, knowing we're not getting into a gray area for the taking or another situation. And if those documents were part of this, I'd I would support this.
Thank you. Before I go to Councilor Schuster, any first-time comments?
No.
Councilor Schuster.
The truck stop, the property owners, and everybody were at the planning commission. The truck stop is exciting about coming here. Their biggest hang-up right now is the Corps of Engineers. Because since there's wetlands involved, there'll have to be a study on that. The Love's Truck Stop said that they will improve the intersection, widen the intersection, curb and gutter, redo the street, and like you said, make water and sewer improvements so that everything flows fantastic. It was nothing but a positive meeting at the planning commission. This thing was very, let's go do it. Their biggest thing is they will not be able to break ground until 2017 because of the studies for the wetlands and moving the wetlands, because they will have to create as much or more wetlands that are currently in the spot the truck stop wants to build. But everything was positive and let's go and let's get it done and everything by all the above. The property owners, Love's Truck Stop, everything.
Thank you. Yes, Senior Planner Keeney.
Mayor and Council, to address Member Vitale's question, was provide the signature sheets authorizing the annexation and zoning at our next meeting, if that's, I mean, I have them too, but I'll just provide them in the packet so that everybody can see them.
We're going back and forth here. Councilor Vitale?
The conclusion, I just think for our protection, as part of this that we're approving, we approve and acknowledge the fact that these two processes have been formally approved and are in place. I just don't want to get in another predicament and have another potential lawsuit like we did with the insurance company on that property, which I don't know where that stands yet, but I just think it would be a proper protocol to have it included in here, and we can move forward with this project, because I'd like to see it done.
Okay. I believe the request has been made. It's been stated that both parties are signed on, and the documentation will be handed to you. Anything else from council? Any members of the public wish to comment on this annexation? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amy Williamson, 1221 East Canby. And I'm here as an officer of the Wyoming Central Land and Improvement Company. And should there be any lingering doubts in the minds of any of you whether we A, wish to sell the property, B, wish to have it annexed, C, wish to have it rezoned, and D, have signed on and agreed to all of the same, I will dispel them here. And if anybody needs a signature right here and now, I've got the pen. So, any questions you have, I would be happy to address.
Lord, you want?
But no, I have not been forced, coerced, or in any other way led, protesting, or shrieking against my will to this point. In fact, it's been a long, difficult road, fraught with many things. But here we are, and I trust we will move forward speedily. And there is, by the way, a very nice, highly expensive well on that property with a nice water right.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
And thank you for being patient through the whole night. Is there anyone else from the public wish to comment on this annexation? City Clerk, would you do a roll call, please?
Somerville,
Yes.
Vitale,
No.
Weaver,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Fleekus.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses and 1 no, Your Honor.
That motion carries. We'll move on to item number 20, Councilor Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution certifying planning commission action. I would move to approve resolution 2016-23, certifying planning commission action amending the future land use map of the 2007 Laramie Comprehensive Plan for the property described in the resolution, generally located on the northern portion of a property located on the northeast corner of Interstate 80 and Curtis Street for an area approximately 60 acres in size by changing the future land use designation from the agriculture categories to auto urban commercial categories based on findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by the Vice Mayor. Senior Planner Teeny.
Mayor, Council, you'll see there's two motions, Motion A and Motion B. The first motion is to introduce this item, and then we then subsequently postpone this item. The intent of this is a one reading item before the council. We would like it just to line up with the third reading of both the annexation and the zoning that you'll be also hearing the zoning, this last item. Just a few things to point out about the comprehensive plan amendment. It is less than the 93 acres. A portion of this area is already within the comprehensive plan as auto urban commercial. This simply brings the remainder of the property into conformance with the rest of the property. And so as we move forward, that's why you see the difference of the 60 acres versus the 93. Generally, it's kind of the north 2/3, give or take, of the property that's in question that we've been talking about. Staff believes that the recommendation of auto urban commercial meets with the zoning that we'll be recommending in the zoning amendment following this item, and matches up with uses that you would typically see within a urban area, auto-oriented area like an interchange where we're located. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. We did not have any public comments regarding the actual comprehensive plan amendment, and so I can answer any questions, and once again, the applicant is here for this as well. So
Before we move to postpone, are there any questions from council? Councilor Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move to postpone consideration of Resolution 2016-23 until April 19th, 2016, and set a public hearing for March 22nd, 2016.
Thank you. Motion and a second by Councilor Schuster. Any further comments from council? Councilor Hanson.
Thank you. Just question, is this because a public hearing is required on this? Is this why we're following this? Or?
No, it's because we want to not pass this until we pass the annexation.
And the
Oh,
zoning.
okay.
And the zoning.
Thank you.
Resolution.
This one's one reading, the others are three.
Okay. Anyone from the public wish to comment on the postponement? City Clerk, could you do roll call, please?
Somerville.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Vitale.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
It is 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
All right, that item's been postponed. Item number 21, Councilor Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's original ordinance number 1940, establishing the zoning area. I would move to approve original ordinance number 1940 on first reading, establishing zoning in an area approximately 93 areas in size to B2 Business District, generally located on the northeast corner of I-80 and Curtis Street, based on findings of fact and conclusions of law. Set a public hearing for March 22nd, 2016, and delay second reading to April 5th, 2016.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Did I state that number right? 21?
Yeah.
21, I thought this one was
That's 21.
21.
21. Okay, I apologize, it is
No
21.
problem.
I'm trying to get the meeting over, I guess.
See?
Yeah.
Okay, Senior Planner Teeny.
Mayor and council, once again, this is for the 93 acres that we've been reviewing through the annexation. Now with the property in theory being recommended for auto urban commercial, that would support this B2 zoning. That's why it's third in your items and your list of things. So when come April 19th at third reading, you will annex the property, you will then change the comprehensive plan amendment, and then you will zone the property once it's been changed in total to allow for B2 zoning. The B2 zoning district is compatible with the auto urban commercial and is very typical of most of your business and commercial uses that you would typically see at a location like this. Things like restaurants, auto dealerships, gas stations, travel centers, hotels, things of that nature. Staff does recommend support of this zoning amendment. Note, there were no public comments regarding the zoning portion of this project, and so I would be happy to answer any questions if you have them regarding the zoning.
Questions? Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Your Honor. Excuse my obtuseness here, but we had a discussion earlier of certain wetlands out there. Is there any complication as far as that is concerned? Because we would have to follow some that are not necessarily ours on the wetlands.
From a zoning annexation and comprehensive plan amendment, no. That is something that the applicant or maybe future property owner I know is well aware of.
Yeah.
And that'd be something that's addressed at our site plan review process. And so through that, that's when they will have to make sure that they're meeting all of the requirements, not only for wetlands, but for city requirements, site plan requirements, anything that might be related to DEQ as well, so.
So it might limit what's built on a certain section of this land that is being
Correct.
envisioned here.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's something I don't think that they've completely determined yet either, and so, but they know that there is some limitations, and they're gonna kind of proceed forward through the proper mechanisms to make sure that they do what they need to.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Questions? Councilor Henry?
Just a comment. I've heard from some people who live in the area, they were concerned about the increase in traffic. But from what I heard is the people, if this goes through as planned, they're planning on doing better pavement, more curb and gutter, and better entry and exit from this, whatever it's going to be. So it doesn't concern me anymore, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Mayor and council.
Some people are concerned about excess traffic.
Mayor and council, as it goes through this process, presumably what we'll see, which is our site plan review process, and through the site plan review process, that's where we're gonna see really the main road being Banner Road, right there off of right north of the light there. If you're familiar with the area, it's a ribbon pavement, there's a kind of a big, large gravel turnaround and stuff. All of that will come into conformance and look like a typical city standard street. I think that's going to improve a lot of the general just traffic routing through that area. With the stoplight being there also, it's designed to handle a good amount of traffic properly versus, if that was not a signalized intersection, I think there would be a lot more concerns. The other thing too is not only with this, we did receive a traffic report with the annexation and zoning in which they detailed what's likely to occur at that intersection. You're probably going to see striping, turning lanes, and some things like that incorporated into that overall design of that street. And so you'll see all those things coming as the site develops.
Vice Mayor?
I realize this is a little premature because it's first reading, but I have to tell you how much I appreciate the applicant's willingness to join the city. So, thank you.
Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Honor. Just to clarify in my own mind, the entry to this property, if it is going to be built out, is where the current traffic light is. Is that correct? There's a truck stop on the other side, and so this would be just across the street on that entry road. There's a traffic light, and the trucks, of course, right now come out of that one lot, and if they want to get onto the interstate, they have to go with the traffic light because they're crossing the other lane of traffic, and this would be the same way entry-wise. They would cross the other lane of traffic, and they would have to adhere to the traffic light. I just want to know where it's located. It's by that traffic light,
Yes.
right?
It is
Thank you.
right north of the traffic light.
No further discussion needed. Thank you.
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Councilor Somerville.
I just wanted to speak just really quickly to the development of this. I live about a quarter mile from this development, and there is a significant neighborhood up there. And I will tell you, I am more concerned about the truck traffic when the road's closed without this development than I'm going to be with this development. This has got significant possibility to bring extra truck parking, to get them off of our residential streets over there and give them someplace to go, someplace to buy food, road improvements, and also remind everybody that the Curtis Street Bridge, this exact intersection here, is on YDOT's improvement list for about, I think, 5 years from now, to redesign the bridge and all of that. So the timing is,
4 lanes.
yeah, hopefully a 4-lane bridge, but all of this is moving forward, and as a resident there, I think this is a step in the right direction in dealing with traffic and parking.
Did you say 75 years?
Well, maybe. I said 5, but 75.
With no money.
With no money.
Coming up to the Harney Street Bridge.
The question I had was, at its, when I look around in the surrounding area, there's an awful lot of B1 and C2, actually two sides, two of the, and I'm wondering why, why the B2 and not the less restrictive B1 for this plot?
So in looking at the area, the auto urban commercial zone or land use designation allows for B1, B2, C2, and B zoning districts. In looking at an interchange, it's a high traffic area. You have a collector road, which is Curtis Street. You also have a collector, which is Banner Road. Really allowing for a higher intensity use at a corner like that is really appropriate. As you start to get further away from that, even though the other side of Banner Road is B1, probably that area could be B2 as well. Many of the uses you see were uses established prior even to the current zoning regulations. So for instance, the Diamond Shamrock truck stop there in the B1 zoning district really would be a typical B2 user.
Okay.
And so, you know, you could go with some other zoning districts, but I think the higher intensity in there is appropriate. Sorry.
Thank you. Well answered. Any other questions? Any comments from council? Would anyone from the public wish to comment on this? City Clerk, would you do roll call, please?
Henry.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Vitale.
No.
Weaver.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
There's 8 yeses and 1 no, Your Honor.
That motion carries. Okay, on to item number 22, Councilor Vitale.
Okay, I move to accept the North Campus traffic study and to approve adoption and installation of the study's improvements as recommended by the Traffic Commission.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Schuster. City staff.
Good evening, members, Your Honorable Mayor, members of council.
City engineer, I should say.
Yes. On May 20th, 2014, council approved a contract with Sustainable Traffic Solutions to perform a traffic study for the area immediately north of UW's core campus. This study was duly performed in consultation with city staff, submitted and accepted by staff on August 16th of 2014. On January 14th of 2016, Traffic Commission considered the study and staff's recommendations for implementation and voted to recommend approval of the study and recommendations to City Council and recommended it to City Council. The following 7 bullet points on pages 1 and 2 of the accompanying staff report summarize the recommendations from the study. Approval of the motion above will authorize staff to proceed with the installation of replacement of signalization, painting and striping, and other improvements listed. The bullet points that were listed in the Traffic Commission staff report are as follows. With the addition of the NZ STEM and Engineering North Expansion buildings, it is recommended that City and University of Wyoming monitor the parking in the areas outside of the residential parking districts adjacent to the campus. Item number 2, the traffic signal at 9th Street and Lewis Street is not warranted and shall be replaced by a side street stop control. The city shall revise the laneage on Lewis Street approaches from a single lane to a left turn lane and a through plus right turn lane. The left turn lane shall be 60 feet, which will require elimination of approximately 110 feet of parking on Lewis Street east and west of 9th Street and as per the accompanying 9th and Lewis exhibits. The city shall revise the intersection Sight distance of Lewis Street approaches at 9th Street and shall adjust it as necessary to provide sufficient sight distance for motorists on stop-controlled approaches at Lewis Street. Parking shall be removed on 9th Street to improve the intersection sight distances determined necessary. An ample sight distance will be necessary to allow for pedestrians to judge gaps in the 9th Street traffic. The previous 3 items that I have mentioned were designed by staff in accordance with traffic report and engineering standards, and the design is shown as part of the attachment of your Traffic Commission staff report. There are no proposed changes to the existing speed limit in the area. The city shall install a pedestrian activated flasher on 9th Street at Lewis to aid in pedestrians crossing 9th Street. And it is recommended that the Urban History Advisory Committee and USAC will monitor the development in the area, North Campus area, and consider changes to the local and collector roads as necessary. And the timeline that staff has given for implementing this is October 31st of 2016 if this is approved. So with that, I can answer any questions you may have regarding the study.
Thank you. Councilor Vitale.
Yeah, I had a couple of people that live over there on Bradley Street, and I would assume you sent out notices to everybody within 300 feet or something there?
That is correct. That was done during, Councilor Hanson, that was done during the Traffic Commission items. Notice was given in that area.
That's Councilman Hanson's there. I'm the new kid on the block, I just started.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
That's okay. They didn't give me a name tag yet.
Same ward, different name.
My question is, and I know that's this Lewis Street thing with the university's been going on for a long, long time. We finally gave them Lewis Street. And during, a few years ago, if I recall, and you can correct me, it may have just been a discussion, but I know it was a discussion about moving the light from Lewis Street to Bradley Street, which is between Flint and Lewis. I see we're concerned about the Flint Street, but not the Bradley Street situation. Was that considered, or is there a reason why Bradley Street is just going to remain as it is? Will there be any traffic controls there? Because Bradley, I think, is almost a through street all the way to 3rd Street, more so than Lewis or Flint. So what it, and I noticed in your outline there that Bradley didn't show up. You got Lewis, Flint, Clark, but nothing in here about Bradley Street. Where does that fit into the scheme of things?
Councilor Vitale, the Bradley Street was not analyzed as part of the study. The intersections that were analyzed were really based on UW's long-term master plan, and as was the goal of the study, is to analyze how that would affect traffic. Bradley, in that plan, is determined in their long-range plan to be removed, so that would really be a temporary measure. So as part of this study, that was not analyzed.
My understanding, the university was only going to go to the south side of Bradley Street, so there still would be residential people on the north side. Has that changed?
This is their 2034 planning, I believe, so it's much farther out, and that was based on planning documents that were, we met with UW. They provided with the consultant with their long-term plans and everything with that, and that's what this study was based on.
So Bradley's a no player, basically, and there's the people that live there who put up with all that traffic and parking, and their quality of life would really, I wish we want to live there. Okay.
Councilor Somerville?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify, how many parking spots are we losing? Well, yeah, I have a follow-up question to this too.
Thank you.
It will be replaced.
Councilor Somerville, I'm trying to estimate that. That wasn't actually, I believe, calculated as part of it.
Is it, in our packets, the third picture?
Mhm.
With the bold yellow lines?
Mhm.
Is that everything that's bracketed in yellow is where we're removing parking?
That is correct.
And so that's based off the site triangles, for judging what you're saying is needed for pedestrians to judge traffic to be able to cross those intersections without a stoplight.
Counselor Somerville, it's for pedestrians to cross traffic, but it's also since we'll be installing the stop signs, to allow vehicles to safely pull on there to be able to see oncoming vehicles is really how those are calculated.
Okay. I guess my question or my concern or my comment is that is a lot of parking in front of those residences. It's a tremendous amount of parking. I'm very supportive of doing whatever we need to do for safety, but we're removing parking almost the entire length of the block on the west side, on the north side of Lewis Street, on 9th Street, and then almost the entire length of the block on the east side of the street, south of Lewis Street. That seems like maybe it looks like more than it actually is.
No, it isn't.
But I'm a little concerned about removing that much parking, especially when there's so many parking zones around in that area. I know that the parking on the east side of 9th Street that's in front of WRI, that's open, free public parking right now. It's not a permitted zone. And I don't know about the other ones, but I'm gonna guess most of those are permitted zones. I have concerns about that, but I appreciate the pedestrian safety, so.
Let me go to some information from the city manager.
Mayor and Council, I'm looking at the residential
I'll go to-
parking permit district map.
Oh, thank you.
And at this corner of 9th and Lewis Street, there are no residential parking districts except, so there are none on
Residential
the
parking.
8 to 900 block of Lewis Street, either side of Lewis Street. There are none on 9th Street between Lewis and Clark.
None. Wow.
There is on the corner of 9th and Lewis, so it would be the northeast corner of 9th and Lewis. There is a small district, it appears, on Lewis Street. Eric, about right. For the half block, so this right here. So it looks like that site triangle at the corner of Lewis and 9th Street right here wouldn't affect the district in a significant way.
Okay.
I would guess, I'm sorry, I'm gonna throw this out, but I would guess that the setback from the corner is already removing that one spot in that district that occurs on the north side of Lewis at 9th Street.
Thank you. Councilor Hanson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just an observation. I tried with alacrity to read the 135-page study that was performed, which basically had one suggestion: remove the traffic light on Lewis and 9th. And I thought to myself, wow, I presume it's not a cheap study that we did there, but the results are really quite meager for this study, I must say, especially when you come to all the tables, with all the traffic at what hour and half hour and quarter hour and whatever, and to myself, next time, call me. I could have told you to remove the traffic light on Lewis and whatever. It's superfluous there. But that's just an observation. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilor Schuster.
At this time, I cannot support this with removing that much parking. Could I see doing 20 to 30 feet in each direction? Yes. But to take 3/4 of a block on an area that parking is absolutely premium in that area, to me is unbelievable. This is just like what they were trying to do on Garfield. And I would suggest leaving the parking light there until because Lewis Street above that, once all the buildings get built, will change drastically to make that basically a three-way intersection with bike and ride on that. So I would suggest trying to keep that traffic light system alive for, I'm guessing, another 4 years until all that building is complete and the one section is closed. Then at that time, I will come one thing further, because we've gotten some emails that talked about how valuable that intersection is. If we put a three-way stop there to slow traffic down before it hits that 20-mile-an-hour section, those 3 stop signs would do as much good as that stoplight ever would. Watching people run it, go speeding through it, bicyclists and everything else, that I would like to see the stoplight stay for a couple more years until construction is completed. But with what they have there, with the no parking, I won't even consider supporting this at this time. Unless that's changed.
When I read through this, first of all, I'm with Councilor Hanson. That stoplight, I can't, I mean, this is a road that I travel daily on, just because of the location of it. I have to tell you, there's so many times I sit at that stoplight and there's no traffic going the other way. I'm talking on 9th Street. I'll sit on 9th Street and it's just an exercise in time, in my opinion. But anyway, the other thing that's disturbing about this that I don't agree with, and I don't know whether it's been a traffic study done or anything else, I'm on that road all the time. Never do I run into an issue with people clogging up that road because they're trying to make a left-hand turn. And by the way, part of the parking elimination on this is because you're creating left-hand turn lanes which take up more space and take up more parking. And I just don't see the necessity of having that left-hand turn. I can understand it on Ivinson. But turning into Lewis Street from either direction on 9th Street just isn't a popular way for people to travel. There's other ways to go.
Only the buses are going to be allowed.
The other part to it is, and I agree with Councilor Schuster, to try to create sight lines and to take away this amount of parking, I mean, we have stop signs all over our community. And are we gonna start painting our whole community with yellow lines because we don't have, and there's plenty of places. I remember Councilor Pierce's comment that the creep and crawl, or stop and creep.
Stop and creep.
I mean, it's part of living in Laramie. This is a 20-mile-an-hour zone. You don't have people flying through in that area. You have people traveling relatively slow. As far as pedestrians go, there's pedestrians walk every single intersection on that street, on 9th Street. There's pedestrians crossing at those points. I mean, if you want to take it to the ultimate, you might as well just paint yellow the whole 9th Street in that area. And I can't go along with it. I can't agree with it. And at this point in time, eliminate the stoplight. I disagree with Councilor Schuster on that one, but I certainly agree with the other parts of his comment. And I don't think I can support it as it is here also.
I'd live either direction on that
Thank you.
stoplight.
Your Honorable Mayor, I would like to, just as a clarification, the parking is not being eliminated because of any of the left-hand turn movements. It is solely site triangle related. So regardless if we add the left-hand turns or not, it will not change what is being done here.
Okay, for clarification, it seems to me that if you put a left-hand turn lane in, then you eliminate the parking where that left-hand turn lane is, because there's not enough room.
Staff was able to design it to keep that from happening.
And you're not going to increase the parking because of the sight lines, even though you're eliminating that parking where the left-hand turn lane is, correct?
No, there is no parking being eliminated because of the left-hand turns.
Except for where the left-hand turn lane is.
No, that is incorrect. It is only because of the site triangles is why parking is being eliminated. The proposal that's before you right here would not change at all as far as parking elimination based on the left-hand turns. It's only site triangle related is because of the elimination of parking.
Okay. Councilor Somerville.
I'm considering putting a motion out there to eliminate, I don't have any problems with accepting everything else on this study except for the parking removal, based on the site triangles. So I don't know what kind of a mess that would create. Maybe staff can answer that question before I put that motion on the floor of eliminating the bullet point that says parking shall be removed based on site triangles, accepting everything else.
Councilor Somerville, the site triangles are based on national standards. I cannot recommend that as being the engineer of moving forward with that.
Thank you. Let me go to the city manager.
Is there an amendment on the floor? I'm sorry.
No, there is not.
Not yet.
There is not.
Exploring the consequences first.
Thank you. I didn't want to speak out of turn. Council, I have to interject and say a couple things that are general in nature and not necessarily specific to this particular intersection. What I've seen over the last year is a movement away from taking the professional advice that this study, we paid $8,000 for this study, to bring forward to you professional recommendations, as our city engineer is saying, that are based on sound traffic engineering science. I'm struggling with my staff over the last year, and tonight is just, we're kind of right back where we were on Garfield a few months ago. I'm struggling as your city manager to work with my staff to assure them that the public and their elected officials trust their professional judgment, but also to find the role that is appropriate for lay people, which I am, and frankly, all of you are, to make decisions about traffic engineering when in fact those decisions have significant public safety outcomes that can enhance public safety or really degrade it. So as a layperson, like many of you, I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm really struggling with how as a city and as an organization, as a municipal government, we find the right balance of trusting the advice of the professionals we pay a lot of money to, or re-engineering everything they bring to us when we're not really qualified to do that. So I'm throwing that out there more as a point of conversation, not to try to persuade you in any way, shape, or form to act on this item in front of you. But this is probably the 4th or 5th traffic study that we've brought forward. Most recently, we remember Garfield. This is another big one where at the traffic commission level and then again at the city council level, lay people are re-engineering. And I'm getting concerned, and I guess my recommendation would be if we want to make those decisions, then maybe we don't expend the money for these very expensive studies and then come in and kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So my advice, my thoughts, I don't have concrete direction, but I think that staff need some solid concrete direction from all of you. Thank you.
Let me go to the city attorney and then Councilor Vitale.
Mayor, Council, I just note too that you're putting yourself in some liability by not taking the advice of the experts and trying to engineer things yourself. So if someone were to get hit in one of these intersections or something, I'd just say that you're putting yourself in some liability, or putting the city in some liability, I should say.
Okay. Councilor Weaver. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize, Councilor Vitale. Councilor Vitale.
Yeah, I guess I'll give my layman's opinion based on residents that are concerned that live there. When we talk about liability, there's nothing in here that addresses the concerns of the citizens that live on Bradley, which is between Flint Street that they're addressing and Lewis Street, which they're addressing. And those folks are concerned about Bradley and 9th Street and that intersection. And they're concerned about their neighborhood, especially when the university is going to be encroaching and taking away half of it. So, I mean, all these speeches are really nice, and I think we're pretty cognizant about liability. But when you're considering two streets and not the street in between the two, where's the liability for that? And on $75,000 for the study, and they're not even mentioned in here. That's concerning. I hear it every morning at coffee. There's a couple people that live there. They only complain. They said, when are you going to put that traffic light in at Bradley? you know, you gave the university Lewis Avenue, and I said, I don't know, but it's on the agenda tonight, I'll ask the question. And I didn't tell them, no, reading this report, I didn't see them people mentioned. But I'm sure maybe they'd like to look at this report, pass it around the neighborhood, and see how the folks there have been ignored. They have a right to be protected as well, and I don't see any protection there. So I won't support this until we see something there. I'll risk the liability.
Thank you. Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was listening carefully to the city manager's comments, and I can identify with him because I feel like council's also in a pretty difficult spot. I really don't feel like I'm in a position to ignore professional engineering standards, and I don't intend to do that. I also don't really feel like I can ignore, you know, some of the anecdotal issues that other council members have brought up. And I think what's happened the last couple of times, I mean, what we keep running into is, yeah, we want to put a premium on safety, traffic safety, pedestrian safety, absolutely, and we can't ignore that. On the other hand, we just continue to have these systemic parking issues in Laramie that we haven't or are unable to take a holistic approach to trying to solve, I guess. And that's really what drives this conflict. I probably will support this because I've heard some very good reasons why I should. But I don't feel good about it, and I feel like we continue to ignore the parking issue, particularly with anything around the university. But there are other areas of the community where it's an issue. So it's a tough spot, I think, for everyone involved here at the city government. I'm really not sure what we're going to do about it, but well, I don't think we can ignore it. Anyway, thank you.
Councilor Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will just, so when we had the conversation about Garfield, I supported that wholeheartedly, and we, as a council, we didn't. And I support all the pedestrian safety stuff, but when you start talking about these areas where we have these parking issues, and these are public parking areas. 35 spaces, public parking area, in an area of town where we already severely limit the public's ability to park anywhere in that vicinity. In lieu of, you know, not eliminating parking, I would be more interested in exploring the question of, okay, well, what do we have to do for a pedestrian crossing safety device so that we don't have to eliminate parking? Do we need a different type of signal? I know that there's I'm gonna use the wrong term, one of the smaller flashing pedestrian signals. But do we need to look at something else for that? That would improve pedestrian safety so that we could still maintain parking spots. I don't know if that makes any sense, but maybe that would be the direction I would lean towards going. I don't know, that's it.
Mr. Jeff?
Councilor Somerville, I was going to note there is actually we are putting in a push button pedestrian flashing beacon, similar to what was installed at 22nd Street in Arrowhead. That is being retrofitted with using the existing signal. We've worked with our street department on that and able to have pretty significant cost savings to have that installed with that, using some of the existing utilities that are out there for the traffic signal. However, I will note again, though, it's based on the sight distances for the vehicles, so by putting that in, it doesn't increase parking, unfortunately.
So as a follow-up, if I can, are there any things that we haven't considered that, I'm putting you completely on the spot, are there any other options out there that we could look at for an intersection like this? Because there's many of these in Laramie that we could look at that we're not looking at for this intersection that would change those sight distances for the vehicles to improve pedestrian safety without having to eliminate parking all the way up the block.
The only option that would possibly leave parking would be keeping the signal in place. However, it's not warranted at the same time.
Catch 22.
City manager.
That's what I was going to say. And council, honorable mayor, council, you know, I hear what you're saying. You know, we get all of the same emails and grumpy, frustrated calls from people about parking. And so this, I mean, the concerns are very legitimate, and I do very much appreciate the position that you are in. Like I said, I'm a layperson too. But you asked me for my professional advice, and I'm saying I'm getting worried about how far we're deviating. We're always open to trying new things as they're available to us, and as Eric said, we have tried the new hawk signals around town and pedestrian-activated signals. I guess in some ways, I think, we're always going to have the pressure of the university. And frankly, in other parts of town, there's pressure stemming from other large businesses. This is why when new development comes in, we require traffic studies to try to head these things off. But no one did a traffic study in 1860 when UW went in, and now we deal with the fallout, In any case, a couple things. Bradley, I'm fully aware of the issues there. Frankly, I use the intersection of Bradley and 9th almost every day. It's terrible. This study did capture some early data on Bradley and 9th Street, and it's definitely something we could come back in and study more fully, but the real scope of the project was more focused on 9th and Lewis. So we can take what we have here and build off of it. Of course, remember your traffic study is looking at actual traffic engineering and traffic science and not really looking so much at the inconvenience of traffic. And those things can be very different in the eye of the beholder, but we can definitely look at the intersection of Bradley and Lewis based with this as being a jumping off point. There's one other thing I wanted to mention. In fact, your study in your 7th bullet point, your 7th recommendation says that area should continue to be monitored. So I think that there's an acknowledgement that there are concerns in that neighborhood north of the campus as the campus expands out and puts pressure. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I think in some ways, we're very sensitive as a city to the parking issues because we hear from the folks who are frustrated by parking. But I don't mean to overstate, or I should say I don't want to understate the importance of parking, but I think we all have to remember that the primary purpose of our roads is to move people on bikes, people on foot, and people in cars, not necessarily to be a parking lot. And finding the right balance of those things is, there is no science for that, but there is a science for moving cars, people, and pedestrians. I don't have the answers, but I see all the problems that you see.
Councilor.
I want her to go first because Andy said she was not going to make the amendment, so I'll make the amendment, but I want you to speak first, so it doesn't have to be to the amendment.
Okay, I just want to say that on this one picture of the site triangles, it says 9th and Lewis 30-mile-per-hour site triangles, and that's actually 20 miles an hour on the south side, so.
It's both sides.
It's all sides.
Oh, they're both?
The sign is halfway down the block.
Yes.
Is it, okay.
It's all sides.
So would that reduce that site triangle a tiny little bit?
Councilor Henry, it could possibly decrease it a little bit. It was designed as you're coming in there for the 30 in that area, but the speed limit is 20.
It is 20 now.
It'd be pretty small savings.
Yeah.
Maybe half a spot, maybe one spot.
Oh, okay.
But it could possibly help.
Smart.
I'd like to kind of expand, if you guys would mind, of how this actually is calculated. It's based off the Green Book, as us engineers call it, and it's let me pull it up here. Policy on Geometric Designs of Highways and Streets. This is the book that pretty much every civil engineer goes through school with. When you take your Traffic Engineering 101, this is basically the book that they teach you out of. So it's a national standard. It's pretty much used by every municipality and DOT in the nation. So the book that we're using to calculate this isn't just a Laramie-specific book. It is a book that is used all across the nation. I heard creep was discussed. Depending on the area of town, main roads usually don't like to do that because you're not going to want to have that creep out into your arterials, collectors, things like that. However, local streets, there's that possibility. And we do look at that as we try to move forward with that to try to eliminate parking. We don't like to eliminate parking anymore, really. It's something we try to avoid and do everything we can do. How that site triangle is actually calculated is it's not really a fancy engineering equations. It's basically physics, entry-level physics is really how it's calculated. It's the time for a vehicle to be able to stop and for someone to pull out there safely. It's very basic physics calculations. There's a little bit of engineering that's been added to that of the estimated sight distance, which is based on studies and stuff like that, and how long driver reactivity and things like that. That's the real engineering that's been added, and that's based on studies that have been done That's also nationally accepted standards and everything else, and we try to minimize that as much as possible. But these site triangles really are based on, it's physics. It's not a fancy engineering equation. It's physics, and it's for vehicles to be able to pull out safely and be able to see that oncoming car, and for that oncoming car to stop if someone pulls out in front of them. So that's really how these site triangles are being calculated out, is for that. If you hired pretty much any engineer, they would give you the exact same thing, because this is the book that they would go to. So I just kind of wanted to expand on that a little bit more to clarify on how these calculations really are being performed.
Councilor Henry?
So, and I also wanted to say that I am going to vote for this without the amendment, because I do trust our professionalism of our staff. And also, I've gotten in an accident there before too. And so I think that reducing the parking in those intersections is going to be good, because you don't have to then creep out. And I'm going to vote for this as it stands.
Thank you. Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Honor. Just a question. Did I read it in this report or in the study, or did I read it someplace else, that the eventual desire of the university is to expand northward all the way to Flint, to the south side of Flint Street? In the long range?
That is correct.
So anything we do here is of a temporary nature anyway. If you move that traffic light forward, you'd have to move it again eventually. It strikes me that a lot of parking will disappear anyway, or they raise houses and build parking lots out there, I just don't know. I think a lot of stuff is in flux up there. Was it in this study that it mentioned the university expanding, or where did I?
That is correct. That was noted.
It's in there, right? I read it in there. And all of a sudden, I thought, boy, do the neighbors know all this? That's a very interesting question.
Come to coffee with me, they'll tell you what they don't know.
Okay, thank you very much. Just sort of an observation, all of a sudden, this is all very temporary, and I don't know what we're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Schuster?
I make an amendment that the yellow no parking lines can exceed no more than 20 feet out of any direction of the intersection at 9th and Lewis. That would still give it more than an average car length. And it would reduce the amount of parking spots lost from a guess of approximately 35 down to 4.
Okay, there's an amendment. Is there a second on that amendment?
I'll second that.
All right, there's a second by Councilor Vitale. Discussion on the amendment. Councilor Schuster?
No, I don't think
Okay.
it's pretty well stated right there in the amendment, and we can do the yea or nay and
Okay.
be done with it.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment?
I have a procedural
Councilor Hanson.
question. Are we in a position to change a study that was delivered to us by our amendment? I'm sort of at a loss here.
We
did it all in Garfield.
Huh?
We do it all the time.
Why don't we, let me,
Is it legal?
so there's a question, and I think the appropriate person to ask that question to would be our city attorney.
Sure.
Mayor, Councilor Hanson, it's not illegal, I guess. I would say it's not necessarily advisable to change engineering standards in a document like that, but as a legislative body, you can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be glad to.
Any further discussion? I feel obliged to give our city engineer an opportunity to comment on too, but is there any further discussion from council? Sid, you can comment or you don't have to, either one.
No comment at this time. I think it's already been addressed.
Would anyone from the public wish to comment on this? This would be on the amendment. City Clerk, would you do roll call, please?
Schuster?
Yes.
Somerville?
No.
Vitale?
Yes.
Weaver,
No.
Hanson,
No.
Henry,
No.
Shumway,
No.
Pierce,
No.
Polikis.
No. No.
That is 2 yeses and 7 noes, Your
So
Honor.
the amendment fails. We're back to the main motion. Is there any further comments on the main motion? Yes, Councilor Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. The only comment that I want to make is, I agree that we should be taking the advice of our experts and listening to them. And when you're talking about eliminating parking, I hope that we can all kind of keep in our minds for future discussion. We're eliminating residential parking without a thought, but we wouldn't eliminate business parking. And I don't think that it's fair to treat those two differently. So if we're going to listen and take these at what they are, then we need to do that across the board, whether it's a residential area or a business area. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Council, I just wanted to follow up. I just spoke with the city engineer. They will, not me, I'm not the expert on this. They will go back and reevaluate based on the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit, because as I just said to Eric, if we even eke out one more parking spot, we hear you, we know that's important, and that would be something I think we can definitely take a look at, see if we can back down any of the site triangles by whatever amount. We'll do that.
Thank you. Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question for the city engineer. As we move forward in the future, and the city has to look at these studies after we've commissioned them and have people brought them back, can we enter into those from the outset, prioritizing the retention of parking? You know, can we just say when we engage these people, look, these are the particulars here in our community, and as we move forward, you know, we need to establish from the outset that eliminating parking is
No.
it should be the last resort as we move forward, so that we can get some, you know, still utilize these national standards that are in place, but have some of that perspective going into it that, okay, you know, even though that might be the most convenient thing from an engineering perspective or even a street and traffic flow perspective, that because we just keep hitting this issue and it's of such great concern to the residents here that I don't know, you know, exactly how to phrase that, other than just to say, as we move forward, let's see if we can prioritize keeping as much parking as possible when we have these folks come in to do these things for us. Maybe we already do that. You know, based on your comments earlier, it could be the case that we already do that, but you know, we may eventually, who knows, in a few years, you may run into a council that just isn't going to do any more of it regardless. I don't know. I could see it happening. So I think we need to try and see what we can do on the front end. Thank you. That's all I have to say. I don't know if it's helpful, but I think we need to do it.
Councilor Weaver, we can definitely make sure to emphasize that more as we put studies out.
Anything else from council? Anyone from the public wish to comment on this? City Clerk, would you do roll call?
Your Honor, before we vote, we're voting to accept the study. Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I can't do anything else. We paid for it.
Tally,
No.
Weaver,
Yes?
Hanson,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Shumway,
Yes.
No.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Polikis.
No.
That is 6 yeses and 3 noes, Your Honor.
That motion carries. All right, we are out of time without a motion to extend the meeting.
We're done.
Oh, yeah.
On the agenda.
We have one more
Work
item,
session.
which would be suggestions for work sessions.
I'll make a motion that we extend the meeting to complete the city council agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Second by Councilor Weaver. City Clerk, would you do roll call, please?
Hanson,
No.
Henry,
No.
Shumway,
Yes.
Clock's a ticking.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
No.
Vitale,
No.
Okay.
Weaver,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
That is 5 yeses and 4 noes, Your Honor.
That motion, it requires a two-thirds vote, that motion fails. Hold on, we're not done yet. Please sit down. Do we have any public comment?
Well,
The only one-
that'll be over too.
No.
No, it isn't.
No,
We
we
need
have
to
to,
extend
All right.
the way I understand it, we have to have public comment.
Very good.
Irregardless.
Very good.
Regarding sign-in, the one person who signed in is no longer here.
Okay, is there anyone from the
I
public?
can't imagine why not.
Is there anyone from the public wishes to comment?
We have a Boy Scout who's working hard to get his next.
Well, then please come forward.
By all means.
Poor guy.
Your Honor.
Any Boy Scout that can sit through one of these meetings for the whole meeting deserves to be heard.
And a badge.
Well, I'm Connor Frick. I'm part of Troop 137, and I'm working on a citizenship in the community merit badge. And so one of the requirements is to watch a meeting for public office. And so I wrote about 15 pages of notes. It was kind of an
Good troop, that's the
eye-opener.
one I was in.
It was kind of an eye-opener for me because I didn't really know what went into the government in the community, and I'm really glad that I got to see this. It was a great learning opportunity. And also, I have another requirement, and I need to interview a public official in public office. So if any counselors present would like to help me, I'll be outside that door. And so,
Staying here, somebody.
like
We will
set up a
find
time to do that, I'd be willing.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for sitting through this whole meeting. By the way, our last meeting was over at 8 o'clock. Councilor Hanson?
I move that council adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. That was seconded by Councilor Somerville.